Chapter 1145. Miao Zhinshan spoke very slowly and softly. But Jing Kaiyuan understood that this was Miao Zhinshan's ultimatum to him. Jing Kaiyuan was not stupid. He could see the situation clearly. The reason why he played tricks on the phone just now was that he wanted to find a way to protect himself in a moment of desperation. Hearing Miao Zhinshan's warning, Jing Kaiyuan hurriedly promised. "Don't worry, grandfather. When we get to Lord Lin Yuan, I'll definitely put in a good word for cousin Zhou. I will also let cousin brother he speak to Lord Lin Yuan as much as possible." Hearing Jing Kaiyuan's promise, Miao Zhinshan did not say anything. Miao Qi, who was standing beside Miao Zhinshan, sighed. "Kaiyuan, I have been guiding you since you were young and teaching you the abilities of a creation master. You've been smart since you were young. You must know how much trouble you've caused this time. Do what you need to do at a time like this. Don't cause any more trouble." Hearing Miao Qi's warning, Jing Kaiyuan nodded obediently. However, Jing Kaiyuan's fists, which were hidden under his sleeves, were tightly clenched. Although Jing Kaiyuan agreed verbally, he knew that if he did not become the only link between the Miao family and Lord Lin Yuan, he would not be able to communicate with the Miao family. Instead, it allowed Miao He and Lord Lin Yuan to form a relationship. In that case, after he returned to the Miao family, it was very likely that he would disappear from this world. With these thoughts in mind, Jing Kaiyuan, Miao He, Miao Zhou, and Miao Qi rode the Miao family's signature fei, the floating nine lights chariot, and headed for the return from faraway manor in a very high-profile manner. Ever since the Nix assembly, the Miao clan had offended the Moon Empress disciple and the chief guard Ye's disciple because of Miao Zhou. Ever since Miao Qi had offended Wang Fuxiang, he had been on the decline. Today they had lost another 2 emperor-class experts, causing the Miao family to become the joke of the Radiance Federation. Now that the Miao family was using the floating Nether Nine Lights chariot to head to the return from faraway mansion in a high-profile manner, the Miao family wanted to use the opportunity to visit Lin Yuan to wash away part of their declining momentum. After all, being able to visit the Moon Empress disciple and be a guest at her disciple's home was also a kind of ability. At the same time, they could use this opportunity to prove to the outside world that the Miao family's beast creation garden and the Moon Empress disciple were not enemies. Soon, the floating Nether Nine lanterns stopped at the entrance of Return from Faraway Manor. When he had received the Brahma insect cage, he had asked Wen Yu to lead them into the mansion. This time Jing Kaiyuan, Miao He, Miao Zhou, and Miao Qi stood at the entrance of the manor for a long time before a spirit craftsman working in the Return from Faraway Manor appeared. He informed Jing Kaiyuan, Miao He, Miao Zhou, and Miao Qi that they could enter the main residence of the Return from Faraway Manor. Recently, the Miao family's beast creation garden had sent people to keep an eye on Return from Faraway Manor. He naturally knew that when the Brahma worm cage came to visit the Return from Faraway Manor, it was led in by a young girl. With just one comparison, they could see that Lin Yuan's attitude toward them was not close. This made Miao Qi, Miao He, and Miao Zhou suspect the relationship between Jing Kaiyuan and Lin Yuan. After the 4 of them arrived at the main mansion's entrance, Lin Yuan, who was drinking tea, spoke unhurriedly. "Come in." Jing Kaiyuan, Miao He, Miao Zhou, and Miao Qi entered the main residence. However, after dead man Jing entered the main residence, Lin Yuan did not say anything. The 4 of them could only stand there awkwardly. After all, Lin Yuan did not say, "Sit." Even if Miao Qi, Miao Zhou, and Miao He had the guts, they would not dare to casually find a seat to sit. From the moment Miao Zhou saw Lin Yuan, he recalled being attacked by Lu Jia at the Nix assembly. Zhou Ming used the world of law to suppress his soul and destroy his foundation. A feeling of fear pervaded Miao Zhou's heart. If Miao Qi had not placed his hand on Miao Zhou's shoulder, giving him courage, Miao Zhou would probably be trembling in fear now. When they were outside the Return from Faraway Manor, Miao Qi and Miao He had already suspected the relationship between Jing Kaiyuan and Lin Yuan. Now Miao He, Miao Zhou, and Miao Qi's suspicions grew stronger. If Jing Kaiyuan was really Lin Yuan's friend, then Jing Kaiyuan was now in Miao He's arms without his lower body. Even if Lin Yuan knew that Jing Kaiyuan had lost his legs in the Blood Oath Extreme Duel, he would not ask why. He should at least let Jing Kaiyuan sit down earlier. Miao He hated Jing Kaiyuan the most, so he had taken the initiative to hug Jing Kaiyuan because he wanted to make use of the fact that they were friends. She used the method of hugging Jing Kaiyuan to gain his favorable impression. Now that she saw Lin Yuan treating Jing Kaiyuan indifferently, Lin Yuan's expression changed. Miao He regretted not letting Miao Zhui carry Jing Kaiyuan. On the other side, Miao Qi had been giving Jing Kaiyuan meaningful looks, asking him to talk to Lin Yuan. Jing Kaiyuan was a little surprised to see Lin Yuan's attitude toward him, so he hurriedly said, "That's right. Lord Lin Yuan, long time no see." After hearing Jing Kaiyuan's greeting, Lin Yuan pointed at the water rhinoceros leather sofa. He opened his mouth and said, "Sit." After Jing Kaiyuan, Miao Zhuo, Miao He and Miao Qi sat down, they saw that Lin Yuan had no intention of talking to them. Miao He rolled his eyes and said, "Lord Lin Yuan, we met at the Spirit Food Pavilion previously. Do you still remember me? At that time I really didn't know that those guys would offend your friend. After that I have already suppressed and punished the Kai family. Take revenge for your friend." After repeatedly feeling Lin Yuan's attitude toward Jing Kaiyuan, Miao He could already confirm that Lin Yuan did not really care about Jing Kaiyuan. Their relationship was definitely not as good as Jing Kaiyuan bragged in the Miao family. It could be said that if he went back and told his grandfather about Lin Yuan's attitude toward Jing Kaiyuan today, his grandfather would completely give up on Jing Kaiyuan. By then, with his status as the Jing family's first young master, wouldn't Jing Kaiyuan be at his mercy? Upon hearing Miao He take the initiative to talk to Lin Yuan, Miao Qi looked at Miao He with appreciation. At that moment, Jing Kaiyuan's face was already pale because of Lin Yuan's attitude toward him. He did not understand how he had offended Lin Yuan and made him unhappy. Upon hearing Miao He take the initiative to express goodwill to Lin Yuan, Jing Kaiyuan could not be bothered with Miao Qi beside him and quickly interrupted. "If it wasn't for those people wanting to invite cousin brother He to a banquet, we wouldn't have met your friend. But cousin He is still soft-hearted toward his friend. Although Kai Qing has become a living dead, he is still alive and well in this world." Upon hearing Jing Kaiyuan's words, Miao Qi and Miao He's faces immediately darkened. If Lin Yuan was not here, Miao He would have given Jing Kaiyuan a flying kick. Miao Qi's hand silently reached toward Jing Kaiyuan's back and ruthlessly pinched the flesh on Jing Kaiyuan's back. He signaled Jing Kaiyuan not to speak carelessly. Seeing the unnatural affection on Miao He's face, Lin Yuan said indifferently, "Kaiyuan is right. Kaiyuan is right. If they hadn't invited you to the banquet, my friend wouldn't have been injured." 166 Reading Network. Chapter 1146. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Miao He broke out in a cold sweat. Miao He's hatred for Jing Kaiyuan doubled at this moment. This was the second time that Jing Kaiyuan had tried to consign him to eternal damnation. If Lin Yuan attacked him now, he would not be able to be the Miao family's young master anymore. Lin Yuan did not even need to make a move on him. He just needed to chase him out of the return from Faraway Mansion. After he returned to the Miao family, his grandfather might promote his younger brother, Miao Ting, to become the Miao family's young master because of Lin Yuan's dislike. It was just like when Miao Zhuo fell down and he was helped up. Miao He hurriedly said, "Lord Lin Yuan, I really don't know what happened that day. Everyone present can testify for me. But even if it wasn't because of me, I would still like to express my sincere apologies to your friend. At that time I can compensate your friend another 2 million radiance dollars as a token of my sincerity." Miao He hurriedly took out his mobile phone as soon as he said that. Recently, Tian Ningning had caught up with Miao He and asked him a lot about the top forces. Miao He had taken out his chat records with Tian Ningning to prove to Lin Yuan that he had a good relationship with her. Lin Yuan raised his brows slightly. The more anxious Miao He was to prove himself, the more he loathed Jing Kaiyuan. The news that the Jing family's old residence in Indigo Azure City had not been destroyed by Sky City would soon spread. Jing Kaiyuan was now in charge of the Jing family. When Jing Kaiyuan found out about this, it was inevitable that he would run back to the Jing family to fight with Jing Kaiyuan for power. Jing Kaiyuan was able to take charge of the Jing family because he was the only direct descendant of the Jing family. With Jing Kaiyuan's influence in the Jing family, Jing Kaiyuan would have nothing to do with him after he returned to the Jing family. Even if Jing Kaiyuan was the culprit behind the destruction of the Jing family. Therefore Lin Yuan was determined not to allow Jing Kaiyuan to continue living. Based on Miao He's hatred for Jing Kaiyuan, he just needed to prove that Jing Kaiyuan was of no use to the Miao family. Miao He was determined not to let Jing Kaiyuan live comfortably until tomorrow. According to Wen Yu's information on Jing Kaiyuan, Lin Yuan knew that Miao Qi was Jing Kaiyuan's teacher. Lin Yuan wasn't sure if Miao Qi would protect Jing Kaiyuan from Miao He. Therefore Lin Yuan needed to add fuel to the fire. Since my friend has forgiven you, then I have nothing else to say. Today's brew is 3 treasures tea. Pour yourself a cup to get rid of the cold. Upon hearing about the 3 treasures tea, Miao He's eyes lit up. Firstly, it was because Lin Yuan had asked him to drink tea, which meant that Lin Yuan no longer blamed him. Secondly, it was because the 3 treasure tea was a type of spirit tea unique to the Radiant Moon Palace. Miao He did not have the qualifications to enter the Radiant Moon Palace, so he naturally had not tasted the 3 treasures tea before. Now that Lin Yuan was here, he had the chance to taste it. When the time came, Miao He felt that he would have something to brag about when he went out and talked about it to the other hedonistic sons of the royal capital. Not only did Lin Yuan not blame Miao He, but he even asked Miao He to drink tea. Jing Kaiyuan's face turned even paler. Fear spread in Jing Kaiyuan's heart. Miao Zhuo mustered up his courage and said to Lin Yuan, "Lord Lin Yuan, I had eyes but failed to recognize you at the Great Night Assembly that day. I have offended you. Since then I have carried out a deep reflection. I'm here to apologize to you. If there's anything, just let me know. In the future I'll do anything you want me to do." Miao Zhuo's words could be said to be without a trace of face. Such words should not be said by a top faction's core disciple. However, Miao Zhuo knew what his purpose was this time. If he wanted to stand up again in the Miao family, the most basic thing was to let Lord Lin Yuan forgive him. During this period, Miao Zhuo's life in the Miao family had not been easy, especially when Lu Jie had put pressure on the Miao family several times. When Miao Zhuo, who had fallen from the clouds to the mud, faced some of the Miao family's branch relatives, he could feel their contempt for him. The contempt from those branch relatives had long shattered the self-esteem that Miao Zhuo had cultivated as a young master. Lin Yuan looked at the proud Miao He and said with a clear smile, "Forget about the Great Night Assembly. Let's forget about the Great Night Assembly. Sun Ningxiang and I are good friends. You should also apologize to Sun Ningxiang." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Miao Zhuo hurriedly replied, "Lord Lin Yuan, the Miao family's beast creation garden will no longer target the Du Immortal Garden. Don't worry about this. After I leave your place, I will immediately go to Sun Ningxiang's place to apologize." Miao Zhuo was no longer the young master of the Miao family and could not represent the Miao family. However, Miao Zhuo's words were not false. This was because Miao Zhinshan had informed Miao Zhuo that the Miao clan had completely given up on their plans for the Du Congealing Immortal Garden. This was also a bargaining chip for Miao Zhuo to obtain Lin Yuan's forgiveness. However, he didn't expect Lin Yuan to bring it up first. Upon hearing the sincerity in Miao Zhuo's words, Lin Yuan pondered for a moment before replying. "Since you're so sincere, I'll put in a good word for you with the young palace lord of Yeong Palace." Upon hearing that, Miao Zhuo immediately revealed an ecstatic expression. Lin Yuan's words were equivalent to washing away the stain on the Nix assembly. His foundation had been destroyed by Zhuo Ming, and he would never be able to become a Class 4 creation master again. However, his situation in the Miao family would not be as poor as before. Miao Zhuo clearly knew that he was more capable of being the Miao family head than Miao He. His grandfather Miao Zhinshan liked him a little more than Miao He. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given the order to make him the Miao family's young family head when he had just reached adulthood. Perhaps after returning to the Miao family he could still have a good fight with Miao He. Upon seeing that Lin Yuan had immediately forgiven Miao Zhuo, Miao He revealed a surprised expression. At the same time, Miao He felt a wave of pressure from Miao Zhuo. Miao He had a faint feeling that his position as the Miao family's young master would not be as stable as before. At that moment, Jing Kaiyuan was completely panicking. Originally, Jing Kaiyuan was only afraid that Miao He and Lin Yuan would form a relationship, but now both Miao Zhuo and Miao He had formed a relationship with Lin Yuan. For a moment, Jing Kaiyuan was in a mess. At that moment, Jing Kaiyuan couldn't care about anything else. In his panic he spoke incoherently. "Lord Lin Yuan, Miao Zhuo pointed at your nose at that time. Moreover, after returning to the Miao family, Miao Zhuo was quite dissatisfied with you behind your back." Upon hearing Jing Kaiyuan's words, Lin Yuan knew that Jing Kaiyuan was completely finished. Previously, when Jing Kaiyuan had been talking about Miao he was just being sarcastic. Now when he was talking about Miao Zhuo he was being rude and direct. 166 Reading Network. Chapter 1147. Jing Kaiyuan's actions were equivalent to going against the fundamental interests of the Miao family's beast creation garden. Even Miao Qi's gaze toward Jing Kaiyuan had become extremely cold and emotionless. Lin Yuan looked at Miao Zhuo playfully and asked, "Is what Jing Kaiyuan said true?" Miao Zhuo was a little flustered. When he had first returned to the Miao family, Miao Zhuo had indeed complained about Lin Yuan. However, as long as Miao Zhuo was not stupid, he would definitely not admit Jing Kaiyuan's words. Miao Zhuo gritted his teeth and said, "My lord, Jing Kaiyuan is lying. When I was at the Nix assembly, I clearly realized my mistake and have always blamed myself. Why would I still have complaints about you?" When Yen Yuan nodded and said very generously, "The past is in the past. What's done is done. I hope everyone can bury the hatchet now. It's never a bad thing to have one more friend." Lin Yuan's words could be said to be very subtle. On one hand, it meant that Lin Yuan did not blame Miao Zhuo for befriending him. It imperceptibly raised Miao Zhuo's status in the Miao family. It gave Miao Zhuo, the crippled young master, the capital to continue fighting with Miao He. The fight between the two young masters of the Miao family would definitely affect the Miao family's beast creation garden's future development. On the other hand, it let others know that he was a person who loved to make friends. It also let the Miao family dispel their doubts that he would become friends with Jing Kaiyuan. They only thought that he loved to make friends and accidentally made friends with Jing Kaiyuan. Jing Kaiyuan had been using his relationship with the Miao family to exaggerate. Jing Kaiyuan did not expect his provocation to fail again. At that moment, Jing Kaiyuan could only grasp at the last straw of hope. After taking a deep breath, Jing Kaiyuan said, "My lord, the Beast Creation Garden has prepared a lot of resources to visit you this time. The Beast Creation Garden has prepared a lot of resources to visit you this time." After saying that, Jing Kaiyuan looked at Miao He. The resources had been placed on Miao He when they had arrived. Jing Kaiyuan planned to wait for Miao He to take out the resources and immediately mention the Golden Lotus seedling to Lin Yuan. If he could get the Golden Lotus seedling from Lin Yuan, he might still have a chance of surviving when he returned to the Miao family. However, Miao He took out a diamond phase storage box and said to Lin Yuan, "I heard that you are more interested in law origin crystals. I heard that you're interested in nomological origin crystals. These are 20,000 nomological crystals that the Miao family beast creation garden specially prepared for you. I hope my lord will like it. Also, I would like to invite you to the Miao family's old mansion in the beast creation garden. The Miao family's beast creation garden is willing to open the treasury to you. You can choose an item from the treasury as a greeting gift." Jing Kaiyuan was dumbfounded by Miao He's words. Jing Kaiyuan had not expected Miao He to invite him to the Miao family's old mansion in the beast creation garden. No one had informed him of this news in advance. However, it was impossible for Miao He to not have made preparations beforehand. Miao Xian must know. This also meant that the Miao family had not informed him of their preparations for Lin Yuan from the beginning. From this point alone, it could be seen that he had been abandoned by the Miao family from the very beginning. Jing Kaiyuan only hoped that Lin Yuan wouldn't accept Miao He's invitation so that he could use the Golden Lotus brocade stock to make a comeback. However, the god of fate once again turned his back on Jing Kaiyuan. At that moment, Lin Yuan stood up and spoke. "Since the Miao family is so sincere, I shall make a trip to the Miao family." Upon hearing that Lin Yuan had accepted his invitation, Miao He's face immediately revealed a surprised expression. If Lin Yuan could visit the Miao family could completely dispel the doubts about the Nix assembly. In the future, no one would make a big deal out of the conflict between the Miao family's beast creation garden and the Moon Empress disciple. Moreover, Miao He remembered that Lin Yuan was on good terms with the Coiling Dragon Valley's Liyun, Kansas. However, Lin Yuan had never personally visited the gates of the Coiling Dragon Valley or Liyun, Kansas. Miao Qi and Miao Zhuo's faces revealed joy. Miao Zhuo had already decided to compete with Miao He. However, Miao Zhuo was a member of the Miao family, and he had a strong sense of honor for the Miao family. Therefore, even if Miao He invited Lin Yuan to visit the Miao family, Miao Zhuo would still be happy. After Lin Yuan agreed to visit the Miao family, Jing Kaiyuan lost his last bit of spirit. Miao Ji was afraid that Jing Kaiyuan would say something else and cause more trouble. Jing Kaiyuan's leg is broken and his mind is a little confused. Zhuo bring Jing Kaiyuan to treat his illness first. After saying that, Miao Qi said respectfully to Lin Yuan. In order to show their sincerity in visiting Lord Lin Yuan, the Beast Creation Garden has used the floating Nether 9 Lanterns car of the highest specifications. If you don't mind, please come with me and to the old mansion in the Beast Creation Garden. Lin Yuan smiled and said, since the Miao family is so kind, it would be impolite of me to refuse. Since Kaiyuan has lost his legs and can't walk, why don't you stay at home and recuperate? Miao Zhua and I have just turned hostility into friendship. If there's anything in the future, Miao Zhua can contact me. Miao Zhua and I have just turned hostility into friendship. If there's anything in the future, Miao Zhua can contact me. If Lin Yuan's words were a death sentence for Jing Kaiyuan, Lin Yuan's words were equivalent to Jing Kaiyuan's immediate death sentence. Previously, the Miao family had needed to use Jing Kaiyuan's relationship to contact Lin Yuan. Now the Miao family could also contact Lin Yuan through Miao Zhua. Therefore Jing Kaiyuan was completely useless. Lin Yuan asked Jing Kaiyuan to recuperate and not go out, which gave the Miao family a reason to make Jing Kaiyuan disappear forever. In addition, Lin Yuan had invisibly helped Miao Zhua. Miao Zhua, who could only fight Miao He, had the capital to be evenly matched with Miao He. While Miao Zhua looked excited, he immediately carried Jing Kaiyuan and walked out of the mansion. The moment Miao Zhua turned around, the smile on Miao Zhua's face disappeared. At that moment, Miao Zhua looked at Jing Kaiyuan in his arms with an extremely cold gaze. Lin Yuan, Miao Qi and Miao He rode the floating Nether 9 Lights chariot to the Miao family's old mansion. Miao Zhua was carrying Jing Kaiyuan and riding on his eagle-beak unicorn phoenix. Jing Kaiyuan, who was in extreme fear, heard Miao Zhua say, Jing Kaiyuan, I, Miao Zhua, have treated you well in the past, right? Ever since you came to the Miao family to learn creation master skills from second aunt, I have taken good care of you. I have introduced you to the top faction's younger generation. You've caused trouble and I've covered for you as much as I can. But you are really cruel and unscrupulous. As he spoke, Miao Zhua turned Jing Kaiyuan's body over and forced Jing Kaiyuan to look into his eyes. Jing Kaiyuan looked at Miao Zhua's ruthless and emotionless eyes and gave up struggling. Jing Kaiyuan knew that he had lost his legs and was in Miao Zhua's arms. Everything was beyond his control. End of this chapter. Chapter 1148. Jing Kaiyuan's lips curled into a bitter smile as he recalled how he had treated Miao Zhua in the Miao family all this time. Jing Kaiyuan lowered his head and spoke after a long while. Winner takes all. Now that I've lost my value and have fallen into your hands, you can naturally say whatever you want. Upon hearing Jing Kaiyuan's words, Miao Zhua bent down and gently patted the wind-type Fei at his feet. Eagle beak unicorn phoenix, pick him up with your beak. After that, Miao Zhua threw Jing Kaiyuan high into the air like he was throwing trash. Miao Zhua's flying Fei, the eagle beak unicorn phoenix, shook its neck and held Jing Kaiyuan in its mouth. Jing Kaiyuan already knew that he was done for, but now that he was being held in the mouth by a flying Fei, Jing Kaiyuan couldn't suppress the fear in his heart. Jing Kaiyuan gritted his teeth and said with his last bit of confidence, Don't forget that Lord Lin Yuan and I are still friends. Miao Zhua sneered when he heard Jing Kaiyuan's words. Did Lord Yuan look you in the eye in the garden of the returning faraway manor? A piece of trash from an old force is living in the Miao family like a parasite, yet he still has the cheek to say that the winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. You're just a fox borrowing the tiger's might. You don't even deserve the word fox. Just now Lord Lin Yuan said to let you rest well. When I go back, I will tell them that I have sent you to recuperate. Miao Zhua looked at the struggling Jing Kaiyuan in the eagle-beak unicorn phoenix's mouth and continued. Illness comes like a mountain collapsing and goes away like spinning silk. Even if little aunt asks me, I have something to say. Auntie doesn't have creation master talent to begin with. She should be married to a top-notch faction and be considered contributing to the clan. But little aunt chose the Zheng family, causing the Zheng family to hurt the foundation of the Miao family's beast creation garden. Now that little aunt has become a widow, it's only natural that no one would want her. But if you want to match up with a new veteran force, I'm sure you can. I'll talk to Grandpa about this when I get back. Otherwise, the world crystal would have been wasted for nothing. Upon hearing Miao Zhua's words, Jing Kaiyuan became agitated and struggled even more violently. However, the eagle beak unicorn phoenix's beak was too sharp. Even though Jing Kaiyuan was wearing a tough spirit aura suit, it couldn't penetrate his body. His body was also lacerated by the sharp beak of the eagle-beaked Kirin phoenix. Fresh blood flowed out of Jing Kaiyuan's body, dyeing the beak of the eagle-beaked Kirin phoenix red. Jing Kaiyuan, who was struggling, cursed. "Miao Zhuo, I admit that you messed with me. But my mother is your aunt." Without waiting for Jing Kaiyuan to finish speaking, Miao Zhuo had already shouted out harshly. "Eagle-beaked Kirin phoenix, swallow him." Following Miao Zhuo's command, Jing Kaiyuan completely disappeared from the world. Miao Zhuo looked at the Miao family mansion in the distance, his expression turning grim. The reason why he had ended up like this was because he had offended Lin Yuan and the young palatial lord of Yeong Palace during the Great Night Assembly. Now Lin Yuan no longer blamed her and promised to help her plead with the young palace lord of Yeong Palace. It could be said that he had cleared his name. Miao Zhuo had thought that he would fall into the dust forever, but now he had accidentally become the bridge between the Miao family's beast creation garden and Lin Yuan. Miao Zhuo planned to take advantage of the situation. He also wanted to let those collateral relatives and subordinates who hit him when he was down know that the master would always be the master, and the servant would always be the servant. At that moment, Lin Yuan had been welcomed into the Miao family mansion by Gao Jian. Miao Zhinshan stood at the door to welcome Lin Yuan with a smile. Looking at Miao Zhinshan, Lin Yuan found it hard to equate Miao Zhinshan with the red-eyed Miao Zhinshan in the extreme arena. Miao Zhinshan only felt that Lin Yuan looked familiar, but he did not have the slightest suspicion. This was because Miao Zhinshan did not think that Lin Yuan was the Sky City Lord. Firstly, Sky City's uniform completely covered Lin Yuan's figure. Secondly, Miao Zhinshan would never have thought that the Moon Empress disciple, whom he had tried to curry favor with, would be his enemy. Miao Zhinshan had originally planned to invite Lin Yuan to dinner at the Miao family's mansion. However, as soon as he said that, he was rejected by Lin Yuan. Seeing that Lin Yuan had no intention of staying at the Miao family's mansion, Miao Zhinshan quickly got to the point. "I'll let he bring you to the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden's treasury now." Miao Zhinshan gave Miao He a look and Miao He hurried to Lin Yuan's side. "Lord Lin Yuan, there are many good things in the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden's treasury. If you like anything, just tell me. I'll let Nanny Hong help you remove the things from the restrictions." Lin Yuan followed Miao He all the way to the Miao family's treasury and found that it was built underground. Walking down the stone steps, he saw that the spiritual ingredients on each floor were placed in a very orderly manner. It was obvious that the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden had always been very diligent in organizing and decorating the treasury. Lin Yuan thought to himself as he looked at the arrangement in the treasury. The foundation of a top faction really should not be underestimated. Although the items in the Miao family's treasury were not expensive, the Miao family's material reserves were simply too abundant. At each floor, Miao He would take out a booklet and hand it to Lin Yuan. The booklet marked the materials stored on each floor. With the booklet, Lin Yuan did not need to walk over and check them one by one. He could clearly see what was on each floor just by looking at the booklet. Even though Lin Yuan had only walked a few floors, he could tell from the rarity and quantity of the materials in the booklet. A veteran top faction like the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden was much stronger than a rising top faction like Li Yunavian Kansas. When he reached the 8th floor and flipped through the booklet, Lin Yuan's pupils shrank. Lin Yuan saw something that was very useful to him, or rather to Gray. If this thing's function was really as described in the booklet, then even if Gray did not go outside to absorb the weather and nature, it would still be able to increase its strength. Lin Yuan took the booklet and pointed at the item on this page. He asked Miao He, "Miao He, how much of this does your Miao family have?" Lin Yuan took the booklet and pointed at the item on this page. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Miao He revealed a doubtful expression. His family's treasury had a total of 30 floors. How much was this? The truly precious items were all below the 20th floor. Miao He really could not figure out what could be of interest to Lin Yuan on this floor. However, Miao He did not dare to be negligent. He stretched his neck to take a look and immediately said, "Lord Lin Yuan, you mean this thing? This thing is called the Clear Yang Flower. This thing is called the Clear Yang Flower. It's a resource obtained through the whale ocean trade. Logically speaking, materials obtained from other continents are usually placed below the 15th floor. The clear yang flower is placed here because there will always be creation masters who will be able to obtain it. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan raised his brows and thought to himself. So that's the case. I was wondering why I had not heard of it. Chapter 1149. When Lin Yuan saw a fae that he had never heard of, he felt a little strange. One had to know that genius had learned all the knowledge on the star web. This thing was not produced in the Radiance Federation, so the star web naturally did not have the corresponding information on things that were not in the Radiance Federation. Lin Yuan recalled the effects of this thing and said to Miao He, "Let's go. Come, take me to see this thing." Seeing that Lin Yuan was interested, Miao He hurriedly led the way. Miao He pointed at a shelf and said, "Lord Lin Yuan, look. Lord Lin Yuan, take a look. These small pots of plants are clear sunflowers. I don't know how many clear yang flowers there are, but there are at least 30 of them. When the Miao family's beast creation garden nurtures some plant phase that need to grow in a sunny environment, they will use clear yang flowers if it happens to be cloudy." Lin Yuan did not listen to Miao He's explanation. Instead, he used Morbius True Data to check on the clear yang flowers. After checking, Lin Yuan clenched his fist excitedly. This clear yang flower could indeed simulate a sunny environment. Although a single clear sunflower was better than nothing if he could get his hands on a lot of clear sunflowers. In that case, he could use the clear yang flower to simulate a sunny day for Gray Ash to absorb. This way, Gray would not have to be afraid of absorbing the sunny weather outside and encountering danger. It was indeed a little cowardly to let Gray absorb the sunny weather simulated by the clear yang flower, but this was just a stopgap measure. Lin Yuan felt that he was not strong enough now. When he was strong enough, he would not have to be afraid of Gray absorbing the weather and exposing its identity as a favored spirit. Seeing that Lin Yuan was seriously examining the clear yang flower, Miao He hurriedly interrupted. "Lord Lin Yuan, this clear yang flower was brought back from the Divine Wood Federation by the Whale Ocean Trading Company. This kind of clear yang flower is very common in the Divine Wood Federation, but the island whales of the Whale Ocean Trading Company don't go through the Divine Wood Federation's route. I think the Whale Ocean Trading Company doesn't have many clear yang flowers in stock. If Lord Lin Yuan is interested, I can help you get more clear yang flowers from the Whale Ocean Trading Company. I also heard that the Divine Wood Federation has more than just the clear sunflower that can simulate the weather. There are also rain mist flowers, snow crystal flowers, thunder pulp flowers, and various other plants." Upon hearing Miao He's words, Lin Yuan's eyes suddenly brightened. It seemed like the clear yang flower was not the only plant fae that could simulate weather. This was great news for Lin Yuan. Most importantly, these plant faes were produced in the Divine Wood Federation. He felt that he did not need to ask others for help with the Divine Wood Federation's things. At the same time, Lin Yuan made a plan in his heart. The first thing to do after arriving at the Divine Wood Federation was to collect some faes like the clear yang flower that could simulate weather. Lin Yuan shook his head at Miao He. "Let's continue walking. Forget about these clear yang flowers." Upon hearing that, Miao He immediately continued to lead Lin Yuan down. Along the way, he kept introducing the resources on the booklet to Lin Yuan. After reaching the 19th floor, Lin Yuan thought to himself. The Miao family's beast creation garden had stored plenty of high-grade fae flesh. The flesh of faes that had been promoted to myth breed would basically not rot after special treatment and preservation. On the 19th floor, there were at least 30 myth 2 and above faes. Moreover, these were only the faes that were relatively complete. Those that were incomplete were not recorded in the booklet at all. Along the way, the Miao family did have some resources that made Lin Yuan very envious. However, there was no need to exchange them from the Miao family. After all, Lin Yuan could also exchange for these resources from other top factions. On the 20th floor, Lin Yuan saw the old woman who had followed Miao Zhinshan to the extreme arena sorting out the things on the shelves. Upon seeing this, Miao He hurriedly introduced her to Lin Yuan. "Lord Lin Yuan, this is Nanny Hong. She has been guarding the Miao family's beast creation garden's treasury. She basically doesn't go out." The old woman, whom Miao He called Nanny Hong, hurriedly walked in front of Lin Yuan and greeted him. Even though Nanny Hong was an emperor-class expert, she did not dare to neglect Lin Yuan's identity as the Moon Empress disciple. After hearing Zheng Kaiyuan's introduction, Lin Yuan could be sure that the Miao family's beast creation garden really did not have any emperor-class experts. Otherwise, Miao Zhinshan would not have brought Nanny Hong, who was in charge of guarding the treasury, with him when rushing to the extreme arena. Lin Yuan did not expect Miao He to take out 20,000 law source crystals as an apology at the return from faraway mansion. Even if the law source crystals were useless to the Miao family's beast creation garden, 20,000 law source crystals was definitely a huge sum. This made Lin Yuan embarrassed to take the Miao family's other resources for free. The 800 pots of golden lotus brocade pearls and zither that he had ordered for the Brahma insect's cage had not been produced yet. Naturally, there were no more for the Miao family's beast creation garden. Even if he could, Lin Yuan did not want to. On the way here, Lin Yuan had been thinking about what he should use to exchange for high-grade fey flesh from the Miao family's beast creation garden for the purple demon to eat. Now Lin Yuan finally knew what to use. This thing was the law source crystal that contained pure power of law. The Miao family now had 2 veteran emperor-class experts dead and could be said to be the most lacking in top combat power. The law source crystal that could create emperor-class experts was what the Miao family's beast creation garden currently needed the most. Lin Yuan had already tasted the bamboo monarch's melon at the Moon Empress's. The Miao family's beast creation garden had always been connected to the bamboo monarch. Miao Qi had even been his assistant. The Miao family's beast creation garden could obtain law source crystals from the bamboo monarch. Now that Wang Fuxiang had become the purple bamboo forest's mistress, it would be good if she did not find trouble with the Miao family's beast creation garden. The Miao family's beast creation garden could no longer obtain any help from the purple bamboo garden. This was equivalent to cutting off the Miao family's way of obtaining law source crystals. Lin Yuan naturally knew that giving the law source crystals to the Miao family would increase their strength. It would allow the Miao family to have a new emperor-class expert in a short time. When the Miao family's beast creation garden had sent Han Tianhe and Lu Yenshan to help the Zheng family in the Blood Oath Extreme Duel, Sky City and the Miao family's beast creation garden were already in an irreconcilable situation. Lin Yuan had still done so in an absolutely hostile situation because he wanted to raise Gu. Killing the Miao family's pinnacle emperor-class experts would only give him law crystals and myth-breed phase flesh. However, killing the emperor-class experts would give him world crystals and creation-breed phase flesh. Even a fool would make the right choice in this transaction. If he took out the Miao family's most urgent law source crystals, he could also extort a lot from the Miao family's beast creation garden. At the same time, Lin Yuan also wanted to see if he could find something in the Miao family's beast creation garden's treasure trove that could improve the quality of his phase. It was important to know that Lin Yuan currently had many phase that were stuck at Fantasy Eye and had yet to improve. It was about time for him to improve himself a little. When he reached the 23rd floor and saw the introduction of something in the booklet, Lin Yuan suddenly stopped in his tracks. It could be said that the appearance of this thing made Lin Yuan thousands of times more excited than when he had seen the clear young flower. When Lin Yuan had set up the spatial tunnel to go to the Divine Wood Federation, there had always been a problem that had troubled him. Now that Lin Yuan had gone to the Divine Wood Federation to train, the only problem left had been easily solved by this thing that had suddenly appeared. End of this chapter. Chapter 1150. Before Lin Yuan had used the fairy heart to transform the sea burial lotus flower into a fairy source-type life form. The requirement for the location of the space tunnel was to be far away from human settlements, but not far from human settlements. However, after the sea burial lotus flower had transformed into a fairy source-type life form, Lin Yuan's requirements had changed. Silver flower's appearance made Lin Yuan decide to build a forbidden area at the location of the Divine Wood Federation's spatial tunnel. The premise of creating the forbidden area was that Silver Flower's coral pattern, burial pattern, and exclusive skill Hidden Dead Servant, could be continuously enhanced. Silver Flower was a fairy source-type life form that killed for a living. Whether it was to increase strength or enhance coral pattern, burial pattern, and exclusive skill Hidden Dead Servant, they all needed to devour the souls of the living. It was unrealistic to solely rely on the souls of the Divine Wood Federation's natives to enhance Silver Flower's strength, abilities and exclusive skills. Only God knew how many souls Silver Flower would need to eat to improve its strength. Therefore, Lin Yuan wanted Silver Flower's strength to increase quickly to meet his idea of the forbidden area. He needed to set up the spatial tunnel at a place where there was a dimensional rift. However, it would not be so simple to move away from the location after the spatial tunnel opened. No matter what Lin Yuan thought of, he would definitely waste an ethereal jellyfish's main tentacle. To Lin Yuan, the ethereal jellyfish's main tentacle was an extremely important strategic resource. The ethereal jellyfish needed a whole year to grow a new tentacle. Especially as it became stronger, its main tentacle was likely to be able to link with Wenyu's sacred source life form, the Celestial Body Council. Therefore, unless necessary, Lin Yuan did not want to waste an ethereal jellyfish's main tentacle. On the other hand, if he wanted to build a spatial tunnel from the Radiance Federation to the Divine Wood Federation, he would need to use half of the hollow crystal mother shellfish's shell. After the first connection to the spatial tunnel, the hollow crystal mother shellfish's shell would be used up. Under such circumstances, Lin Yuan could not change the location of the spatial tunnel even if he wanted to in the Divine Wood Federation. Unless he could find a spatial spiritual ingredient to replace the hollow crystal mother shellfish's shell. Lin Yuan did not know how many stars the hollow crystal mother shellfish was. However, while Elder Space was in charge of ostrich logistics, he was also one of the Radiance Federation's 13 lords. He was on the same level as his master, the Moon Empress. As Elder Space's sacred source life form, the hollow crystal mother shellfish should be at least 10 stars. How could a treasure of this level be so easily replaced? Even if Lin Yuan was lucky enough to open a dimensional rift near the location where he had first set up the spatial tunnel, he would not be able to open it. He could also let the dimensional rift evolve by placing source-type items in the dimensional rift hub. The number of dimensional life forms that descended from the dimensional rift was not limitless. This depended on the number of dimensional creatures connected to the dimensional world behind the dimensional hub. Usually, when a dimensional rift had just opened, a huge beast tide would form. It was like having a stomachache in the toilet. After the beast hordes subsided, the number of dimensional life forms descending from the dimensional rift began to decrease significantly. Once Silver Brilliance's strength reached a certain level, the alien beasts that descended from the dimensional rift would not be able to defeat Silver Brilliance. Thus, in order for Yinhua to grow quickly, he had to make the Forbidden Land even more dangerous. There needed to be a second, third, or even fourth dimensional rift near the spatial tunnel. The item that Lin Yuan had found in the Miao family's 23rd floor's treasury could stimulate the designated space after spirit qi was channeled into it. It would weaken the space within the designated area and promote the formation of the dimensional rift. After getting this item, Lin Yuan would arrive at the Divine Wood Federation. He would be able to use this item to tear open a spatial rift and nurture Silver Brilliance through the alien beast tide that descended from the spatial rift. Silver Brilliance would be able to quickly spread out the Bone Lotus Flower by devouring the souls of dimensional life forms. At that time, the Bone Lotus Flower would spit out a mist of bone powder that could completely block the line of sight. It would also be shielded from probing. In the misty sea of Bone Lotus Flowers, there were hermit dead servants harvesting the lives of the life forms that stepped into the sea of Bone Lotus Flowers. At the same time, the appearance of each hermit dead servant would deepen the layer of hermit fog above the Bone Lotus Flowers. This made Lin Yuan's Forbidden Land even more mysterious and unpredictable. It could be said that this item that the Miao family had discovered was related to Lin Yuan's development in the Divine Wood Federation. Lin Yuan had to take this item down no matter what. He immediately pointed at the list and asked, "The item on the list is called Void Shattering Stone. This item on the list is called the Void Shattering Stone. Did it come from another federation's trade through the island whale?" Upon hearing Lin Yuan's question, Miao He hurriedly clapped his hands and said, "As expected of Lord Lin Yuan. As expected of Lord Lin Yuan." He immediately saw through the origin of these space-shattering rocks. These void-shattering stones are also resources that my Miao family's beast creation garden exchanged with creation master resources from the whale ocean trade. I used some of the void-shattering stones previously, and they are now less than 15 caddies. I remember that about 5 caddies of void-shattering stones can be channeled with spirit qi and tear open a random class 1-dimensional rift. At the mention of the whale ocean trade, Miao He could not help but recall the news he had heard from his grandfather, Miao Zhenshan, when he had just returned to the Miao family's ancestral mansion from the Pole Arena. Originally, Miao He did not intend to reveal such confidential information about his family's development. However, he immediately recalled that Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple. With such a noble identity, there was no reason why he could not participate in the top faction's struggle. By revealing some of his family's matters, he could show that he was not guarded against Lin Yuan. I might even be able to gain Lin Yuan's favorable impression. Miao, he said softly, don't worry. Lord Lin Yuan Whale Ocean Trading has taken the initiative to cooperate with our Miao family's beast creation garden. I heard that they want our Miao family's beast creation garden to help nurture a plant species Fei and then use it to search for some seed. When our Miao family's beast creation garden and Whale Ocean Trading Company start working together, there will be more and more items from the outer region. When I obtain any good items from the outer realm, I will immediately send them to Lord Lin Yuan and let him have the first pick. At that moment, Miao he looked as though he had set his eyes on Lin Yuan and wanted to flatter him to the end. He did not have the bearing that a young master of a top faction should have. In fact, Miao he had chosen to be a bootlicker because Lin Yuan had forced him to. He had just promoted Miao Zhou in the return from faraway mansion and made him the link between him and the Miao family's beast creation garden. This caused Miao he to feel a sense of danger. He felt that after Miao Zhou became the link between the Miao family and Lin Yuan, his position as the Miao family's young master might not be stable. Chapter 1151. Thus, Miao he wanted to see if he could further build a good relationship with Lin Yuan. Even if Miao Zhou was still the link between Lin Yuan and the Miao family, it would be best to bring him along. In a competition, if two people had the same advantage, this advantage would cancel each other out and neither of them would get extra points. Only then would he be able to suppress Miao Zhou. Lin Yuan clearly did not know Miao He's thoughts and did not have the time to care about them. The speaker didn't mean anything, but the listener was listening attentively. Lin Yuan's mind was fully focused on the cooperation between Whale Ocean Trading and the Miao family's beast creation garden. For a moment he could not help but frown. The Whale Ocean Trading Company wanted to cooperate with the Miao family's beast creation garden and let the Miao family's beast creation garden help to nurture a plant species Fei to search for seeds. The word seed made Lin Yuan think of the plant seed that was parasitic in Ji Feng's body and had an immortal aura. This seed had already been absorbed by Red Thorn. It was also because Red Thorn had absorbed this plant seed with immortal aura that Lin Yuan could have two Emperor-class humanoid weapons. When he had been saving Ji Feng, he had confirmed that the Whale Ocean Trade's myriad flags people could not sense the specific location of the seed. Otherwise, Ji Feng, who had been infected by the parasite seed, would not have escaped. Furthermore, they had not been able to capture Ji Feng even after 10 years. And now, after Red Thorn devoured that strange plant seed, the people from the Whale Ocean Trading Company suddenly started searching for that strange plant seed. What a coincidence! At first Lin Yuan only felt that the plant seed with the immortal aura was a little strange. But now the power that Red Thorn obtained after absorbing this strange plant seed was simply too shocking. This made Lin Yuan subconsciously believe that this seed was not that simple. It was highly possible that it contained some great secret. For some reason, a sense of danger welled up in his heart. This sense of crisis was still very strong. He decided to pay more attention to the Whale Ocean Trade's myriad flags people in the future. At the same time, he wanted to learn more about that strange plant seed from Ji Feng, as well as the specific situation when the Wanqi lineage attacked the Haitian lineage 10 years ago. Rashly mentioning the matter of Wanqi's faction attacking Haitian's faction 10 years ago was tantamount to exposing Ji Feng's scars. Lin Yuan did not want to deliberately expose Ji Feng's scars, but there was a reason for it. Miao he had said that the myriad flags lineage wanted the beast creation garden to help nurture a plant species Fei and use it to sense the seed that Red Thorn had devoured. Let's not talk about whether Red Thorn would be able to sense the seed after it was eaten by the Whale Ocean Trade's myriad flags. Feis could only sense each other from the same source. It was either the same kind sensing the same kind, or the self sensing a part of itself. Or perhaps there were two parts of themselves that were sensing each other. This meant that the Whale Ocean Trading Company might have more strange plant seeds. If that was the case, then Lin Yuan really coveted this strange plant seed in the hands of the Whale Ocean Trade's myriad flags. If there was another strange plant seed for Red Thorn to devour, would the tip of Red Thorn's tongue of relinquish evolve again? Upon seeing Lin Yuan frown, Miao He immediately became perturbed. She wondered if she had said something wrong and made Lin Yuan annoyed. Miao He said hurriedly, "Lord Lin Yuan, if there's nothing that satisfies you on this floor, then I'll bring you to the next floor to take a look." As the number one of the Miao family's younger generation, I have the right to choose one item from the first 25 floors of the treasury every month. I haven't had the time to use this right this month. Why don't I give it to Lord Lin Yuan as well? Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan could not help but laugh and shake his head. Miao He was still trying to please him. Was he trying to tell him that Miao Zhuo was more useful than Miao Zhuo? He even told him that Miao Zhuo was the top descendant of the younger generation in the Beast Creation Garden. That was indeed the truth. If Lin Yuan wanted to establish a good friendship with the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden, Miao He was indeed the most suitable person. However, Miao He did not know that Lin Yuan was deliberately supporting Miao Zhuo to create chaos among the Miao family's younger generation. This would also make it easier for Lin Yuan to harvest the Miao family's leaks. Lin Yuan used his finger to tap on the void-shattering rock on the 23rd floor's list. I'll take this 15 kilograms of void-shattering rock. I've been walking around for a long time. Not all the good stuff of the Miao family is in this treasury, right? It's boring to keep walking. Let's go up. After saying that, Lin Yuan took the lead to go upstairs. Along the way, Lin Yuan kept thinking about the cooperation between the whale ocean trading and the Beast Creation Garden, as well as that strange plant seed. When he reached the 10th floor, Lin Yuan pondered for a while and still had many things that he did not understand. Thus, he turned to Miao He, who was carefully following behind him. Miao He, as one of the top 3 factions, the whale ocean trading shouldn't lack creation master resources, right? Why would they look for the Miao family to cooperate? Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Miao He could not help but secretly roll his eyes. What's wrong with the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden? Our Beast Creation Garden is firmly ranked in the top 20 among the top factions. The entire faction is made up of creation masters. Not to mention the whale ocean trading, even the Rhine life form and the Brahma insect cage had looked for the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden to cooperate. Miao He might be complaining in his heart, but he would not dare to say it out loud even if he had 10 guts. At this time, Miao He recalled that his grandfather, Miao Zhenshan, had mentioned that the Haitian branch of the whale ocean trade had been hiding from the world for the past 10 years. Miao He said, they should be doing their best to breed island whales for the whale ocean trade. Lord Lin Yuan, the whale ocean trade's creation masters are almost all from the sea-sky lineage. The ocean-sky lineage is going into seclusion again. Every few years, a new batch of island whales will be bred in the whale ocean trade. This must be the work of the sea-sky lineage. The sea-sky lineage is busy nurturing the island whales, so the other creation masters' jobs are naturally outsourced. Miao Zhuo's words made Lin Yuan frown again. It seemed like not only had the whale ocean trade's 10,000 banners not told the truth when reporting the news to the Hidden Moon Pavilion, but they had also been doing their best to conceal it from the other peak factions. Based on Miao He's information, Lin Yuan was certain that the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden did not know about the whale ocean trade. Apart from Ji Feng, everyone from the sea-sky lineage was dead. The cause of death was the strange plant seed that the whale ocean trade 10,000 banners were searching for. For some reason he shuddered as he pondered. Lin Yuan increasingly felt that there was a deeper meaning behind the whale ocean trade's cooperation with the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden. The fact that the whale ocean trade 10,000 banners had the ability to deal with the sea-sky lineage was enough to prove their strength. Could the whale ocean trade 10,000 banners have designs on the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden now? Lin Yuan's expression turned serious as he asked Miao He again. Chapter 1153. Thinking of this, Miao Zhenshan suddenly felt that he was daydreaming. It was obvious that the Moon Empress was afraid that Lin Yuan would encounter danger and had specially assigned this expert to him. Even if Lin Yuan really agreed to lend it to the Miao family, he would never dare to use it. After the youth's clear and pleasant voice rang in Miao Zhenshan's ears, it did not stop. I've heard about the blood oath battle between Sky City and the Jing family. The Miao family's Beast Creation Garden has suffered quite a lot in order to help the Jing family. 2 veteran emperor-level experts actually died in the extreme arena because of other people's matters. If you want to cultivate another 2 emperor-class powerhouses, without law crystals that contain pure law power, I really don't know how long you'll have to wait. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the faces of the Miao family members present changed. The deaths of Han Tianhe and Lu Yenshan could be said to be a sore spot for everyone in the Beast Creation Garden. The wound had yet to stop bleeding, so Lin Yuan made a move to widen the wound. Moreover, Miao Qi could sense faint contempt in Lin Yuan's words. This hint of disdain made Miao Qi feel very uncomfortable. Lin Yuan had said that the Miao family's beast creation garden did not have law crystals that contained pure nomological power, which was equivalent to breaking the relationship between the Miao family and the bamboo monarch. He was the culprit who caused the relationship between the Miao family's beast creation garden and the bamboo monarch to fall apart. Lin Yuan's words were like poking at his spine. Miao Qi could not be blamed for overthinking things. At this time, Miao Qi found that many direct descendants of the Miao family were already looking at him coldly. Since Lin Yuan could not take out the golden lotus brocade stock, Miao Zhinshan no longer wished to keep Lin Yuan in the Miao family. The Miao family had lost 2 veteran emperor-level powerhouses, and this was the time when the people's hearts were in chaos. Miao Zhinshan was really afraid that Lin Yuan would say something else that would cause the Miao family's already scattered hearts to fall apart even more. Just as Miao Zhinshan was about to hint Lin Yuan to leave the Miao family, Lin Yuan continued. However, if we have a law origin crystal that contains pure law power and a peak-level martial emperor expert with a good foundation, it will be much easier for your Miao family to obtain an emperor stage powerhouse. After saying that, he flipped his hand and a diamond-like law crystal appeared in his hand. Upon seeing the law origin crystal in Lin Yuan's hand, Miao Zhinshan's eyes immediately widened. The Miao family's beast creation garden was a pinnacle faction that focused on creation masters, so it was very easy for them to nurture emperor-class experts. Furthermore, most of the Miao family's beast creation garden's resources were spent on collecting law crystals of various elements and using them to nurture emperor-class experts. The Miao family had at least 10 peak-level emperor realm experts. Among them, the top few were only a step away from becoming an emperor-level powerhouse. This step was almost equivalent to a law crystal. Thus, in Miao Zhinshan's eyes, the law crystal in Lin Yuan's hand was equivalent to an opportunity for the Miao family to have another emperor-class expert. Originally, Miao Zhinshan had some opinions about Lin Yuan. I gave you 20,000 laws origin crystals. It's fine if you don't trade the golden lotus brocade with the beast creation garden. He was still digging up the scars of the beast creation garden. How despicable. However, after Lin Yuan took out the law crystal, Miao Zhinshan felt that Lin Yuan was closer to him than his own grandchildren, Miao Zhuo and Miao He. Apart from Miao Zhinshan, the few peak-level emperor realm experts of the Miao family were even more excited. This was because there was a high chance that this law crystal would be spent on them. These peak-level emperor realm experts of the Miao family had been stuck at this stage for a long time. If they could seize the opportunity, they wouldn't even need to brew too much. They would very likely become emperor-class experts immediately. Furthermore, with family head Miao Zhinshan around, they would definitely be able to successfully overcome the tribulation of creation. Staring at the law crystal in Lin Yuan's hand, Miao Zhinshan, who couldn't bear to blink, smiled like a chrysanthemum. Miao Zhinshan opened his mouth and probed. Lord Lin Yuan, did you find any other resources you want in the treasure vault? I'll send someone to get it for you immediately. Lin Yuan shook his cuff-shaped amber button diamond face storage box and said, I chose the space-shattering stone. Miao He had already given it to me when I chose the space-shattering stone. I didn't continue after I reached the 23rd floor of your treasure vault. I'm not sure what's on the next 7 floors. If you want to exchange for this law origin crystal, you can take a look at this list. The Miao family's beast creation garden's resources can't all be in that treasure vault, right? If you have the items on this list, I can consider exchanging the law crystal in my hand with you. The list in Lin Yuan's hand had been organized by him a long time ago. It was the spiritual ingredient that Lin Yuan had selected after analyzing true data that was most suitable for his phase to improve their quality. Since Lin Yuan's phase were on the optimal evolution path, these spiritual ingredients were either expensive or rare. Therefore, these spiritual ingredients that were used to improve their quality were either expensive or rare. Anyway, they were extremely difficult to obtain. Lin Yuan had searched the market many times. Apart from the mountain-containing embryo that he had coincidentally encountered at the Indigo Azure Sea Market, he had not encountered any other spiritual ingredients on the list. Miao Zhinshan took Lin Yuan's list and took a closer look. He immediately pursed his lips. The Miao family's beast creation garden did not have many of the items on this list. The Miao family's beast creation garden once had many of these spiritual ingredients. However, these spiritual ingredients with obvious properties and outstanding effects were immediately used after being obtained. Fortunately, the Miao family's beast creation garden still had some of these spiritual ingredients in stock. Lord Lin Yuan, the Miao family still has 5 mountain-containing embryos left. The spirit wisdom purple Ganoderma did not grow in the beast creation garden, but we have a bag of spores from the spirit wisdom purple Ganoderma. These spores are active, and after special nurturing, they can grow into the spirit wisdom purple Ganoderma. However, the cost of nurturing them is very high. If Lord Lin Yuan doesn't mind, I will give all the spirit wisdom purple Ganoderma's spores to Lord Lin Yuan. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan immediately revealed a smile. 5 mountain-containing embryos were enough to improve the source sand's quality from Fantasy 2 to Fantasy 4. If the quality of these 5 mountain-containing embryos was good, it was not impossible for the source sand to reach Fantasy V. The spirit wisdom purple Ganoderma was a kind of heaven and earth fae that could condense the mind and soul. This kind of heaven and earth fae that could condense the mind and soul was most suitable for genius to improve its quality. If genius ate a mature spirit wisdom purple Ganoderma, it might not necessarily reach Fantasy 2. However, if he had the spirit wisdom purple Ganoderma's spores, Lin Yuan could use them to nurture a large number of child ramets. This would allow genius quality to increase from Fantasy I to Fantasy V. Many of the items on the list were not available in the Miao family's beast creation garden, which was completely within Lin Yuan's expectations. The Miao family's beast creation garden needed 2 of these items, and the quantity was not small. This was truly a pleasant surprise for Lin Yuan. End of this chapter. Chapter 1155. Lin Yuan's actions caused everyone in the room to stare at his hands. Their minds were also swaying with the movement of Lin Yuan's hands. The 6 law crystals that Lin Yuan took out shocked Miao Zhinshan. Based on the number of law crystals that Lin Yuan took out, Miao Zhinshan knew how much the Moon Empress doted on Lin Yuan. Since Lin Yuan could take out so many law crystals at once, it meant that he definitely had more in stock. Miao Zhinshan's heart ached when he thought of Lin Yuan's exorbitant demand for the previous law crystal. However, Miao Zhinshan's heart immediately became abnormally excited. 2 Emperor-class experts could completely fill the gap of Emperor-class experts in the Miao family's beast creation garden. Now the Miao family had exactly 7 pinnacle Emperor-class experts. Presumably, Lin Yuan had decided to take out 6 more law crystals based on the number of pinnacle Emperor-class experts in the Miao family. The Miao family could obtain 7 newly advanced Emperor-class experts in one go through the transaction with Lin Yuan. Not only did the Miao family's top combat power not decline, but it could also be said that it had improved. Even if the 7 newly advanced Emperor-class experts could not compare to Han Tianhe and Lu Yenshan. In battle, Han Tianhe and Lu Yenshan could easily kill the 7 newly advanced Emperor-class experts. However, the mobility of 2 veteran Emperor-class experts could not compare to the mobility of 7 newly advanced Emperor-class experts. He was the benchmark of the Miao family's top combat power. With him around, the Miao family's top combat power could be guaranteed. Thinking of this, Miao Zhinshan became more generous when he spoke again. Resources could be accumulated again if they ran out. Moreover, with 7 newly advanced Emperor-class experts, the Miao family's beast creation garden could develop mercenaries. They could snatch the jobs of the 5 Thearchs mercenaries. The 5 Thearchs mercenaries and Coiling Dragon Valley had always been on good terms. If the Miao family's beast creation garden could effectively attack the 5 Thearchs mercenaries, it could be considered that they had regained the dignity of Coiling Dragon Valley's creation masters. However, Lin Yuan's next words made Miao Zhinshan and all the pinnacle Emperor-class experts present turn gloomy. Don't be so happy yet. My law crystals are not that easy to get. The reason why I took out so many law origin crystals is to give you guys a choice. If I trade these 6 law origin crystals including the previous one, I need to take away all the creation earth veins that the newly advanced creation breed phase have descended after the creation calamity. You can choose to agree or disagree. If you don't agree, then the deal between us will end here. If you agree to the deal, apart from the 7 creation earth veins, I want to exchange each law origin crystal for 5 myth 3 phase bodies. These 5 myth 3 phase require their bodies to be at least 90% intact. I just made a trip to the Miao family's treasury and know that your family can take out 30 myth 3 Fey bodies that are at least 90% complete. Alright, my time is precious. Before Miao He returns, you can have some time to think about it. Miao He, come back. After I got the mountain-containing embryo and the spores of the spirit wisdom purple Ganoderma, you didn't reply, so I took it that you chose to give up on the deal. Sorry for disturbing you for so long. I should go back now. After saying that, he used his hand to play with the 6 law crystals in his palm. The Miao family members' expressions were terrifyingly repressed. Taking away all the creation earth veins would be a very serious blow to any creation breed Fey. Moreover, it was a Fey that had just become a creation breed. Without the foundation of the creation earth veins in the law world condensed by a newly promoted creation breed Fey, after that, it would basically be impossible to take another step forward. This deal was equivalent to using the Fey's chance to become a creation breed in exchange for a future without light. Moreover, each exchange would require 5 complete myth 3 Feys. The Miao family members felt that Lin Yuan was too black-hearted. This harvesting of leeks was simply unbearable. However, he was holding something that the Miao family members could not resist. Finally, when Miao He happily stepped to the door of the reception room, Miao Zhinshan did not ask those pinnacle emperor-class experts for their opinion and immediately made a decision. He, go to the treasury again and ask your nanny Hong to pick out 30 of the most complete myth 3 Phase bodies. Upon hearing Miao Zhinshan's order, Miao He was stunned and felt that the atmosphere in the room was somewhat wrong. Moreover, what exactly was it that was worth using 30 complete myth 3 Phase to exchange for? However, when he saw the expression on his grandfather's face, Miao He did not dare to stay and ask more. He hurriedly turned and continued running toward the treasury. Upon seeing that Miao Zhinshan had made a decision, Lin Yuan strode toward him. He placed the 6 law crystals in Miao Zhinshan's palm and said, "Actually, I'm not an emotionless person. I just got in touch with Miao Zhua and I think he's a good person. How about this? Even pinnacle emperor-class experts can't guarantee that their Fays will successfully become creation breeds if they use the law crystals. I can make a promise here that I can let the Miao family's 7 pinnacle emperor-class experts transform into emperor-class experts today. The extra law crystals will be considered as my gift to the Miao family." Lin Yuan's words eased the expressions of Miao Zhinshan and the Miao family members. Lin Yuan's promise was tantamount to letting the Miao family not bear the risk. Otherwise, the 7 law crystals that were unlucky would only let 1 or 2 of the Miao family's 7 pinnacle emperor-class experts become emperor-class experts. Miao Zhinshan certainly could not accept the Miao family's offer of so many resources. After leaving the Miao family's residence, Lin Yuan looked at the sky and found that it was already evening. The royal capital's sky was red and magnificent. Purple and red dyed each other and intertwined in the sky. It made the sun, which had not yet completely set, appear less bright. Lin Yuan stretched his back and felt the breeze of early spring. He felt that he had gained a lot from this trip to the Miao family. When Lin Yuan rode Little Black to the return from Faraway Manor, the Miao family members also looked happy. It had been painful when they had traded the resources, and it had also been painful when Lin Yuan had taken away the creation earth vein. However, after seeing the 7 new emperor-ranked powerhouses, the pain disappeared and was replaced by boundless ambition. Among the 7 pinnacle emperor-class experts, only 4 had lived up to expectations, and the remaining 3 had spent more law crystals than Lin Yuan had. In the Miao family's opinion, this transaction was simply profitable. In the Miao family's hearts, Lin Yuan had also changed from an evil person to a good person. Among them, the one who was most grateful to Lin Yuan was definitely Miao Zhua. Miao Zhua had been demoted because of Lin Yuan, and now he had risen because of Lin Yuan. The ups and downs had made Miao Zhua somewhat suffer from Stockholm Syndrome. Subconsciously, he only felt that Lin Yuan was his savior. If Lin Yuan knew what Miao Zhua was thinking, he would definitely think that Miao Zhua had awakened some strange attribute. At that moment, the Radiance Federation's matters, big or small, had come to an end with Lin Yuan. Although Sky City had just defeated the Zheng family and was about to enter a state of rapid development, Lin Yuan had arranged everything that needed to be arranged. However, he had arranged everything that needed to be arranged. Everyone only needed to perform their respective duties to maintain the normal operation of the Sky City's faction machine. Lin Yuan finally had time to rush out of the Radiance Federation and go to the outside world for real training. It was destined to be a path of blood and fire. Chapter 1156. Unlike the Miao family's joy in the Whale Ocean Trade's main residence, an elegant middle-aged man with broken eyebrows was playing chess with a gentle-looking man. The elegant middle-aged man, Di Wanqing, and the gentle-looking man were frowning. The gentle-looking man had a pair of prominent ears, which was rather comical. However, no one had ever dared to mock this man with prominent ears. This man with prominent ears was the Whale Ocean Trade's Myriad Flags family head, Di Wanqing. Just like his name, Di Wanqing was a godlike existence to the Radiance Federation's unofficial factions. The Whale Ocean Trade's function could be said to be the hardest to develop among all the factions. The Whale Ocean Trade's function was for overseas trade, and the most basic prerequisite for overseas trade was to possess an island whale. To nurture an island whale, a massive amount of creation master resources would be required. Even with sufficient resources, at least 10 mid-grade class 4 creation masters would be required to nurture an island whale day and night. They would need to work together for 2 to 3 years. This amount of resources was not something that many of the pinnacle factions could easily afford. Some factions that didn't need the island whale would usually not choose to nurture the island whale, which was a strategic fey that cost a lot, in order to expand their current advantages. The Whale Ocean Trade's function was difficult to start. But after it really started, as the island whale carried out trade between the various federations, the Whale Ocean Trade controlled more and more resources from the other federations. This made the Whale Ocean Trade a target that the other factions would fight to curry favor with. In terms of raw strength, the Whale Ocean Trade might not be comparable to the Rhine life form and the Brahma insect cage, which were also among the top 3 factions. However, the Whale Ocean Trade was definitely the faction that was fawned over the most among the top 3 factions. At this moment, Di Wanqing looked at the light attribute law crystal fragment inlaid on the chess piece in his hand. He then threw the chess piece into the chess pot. Upon seeing his big brother's gloomy expression, Di Wanqing knew that his big brother did not intend to continue playing. Therefore, he also threw away the chess piece embedded with the dark attribute law crystal. Since big brother isn't in the mood, we won't play anymore. According to the information from the spy hidden in the Miao family's beast creation garden, should we continue with our plan against the Miao family? Upon hearing Di Wanqing's words, Di Wanqing looked at Di Wanqing. It was obvious that Di Wanqing had hit the nail on the head, and Di Wanqing was also thinking about it. Di Wanqing asked Di Wanqing instead of directly voicing his thoughts. Wanqing, if it were you, what would you decide? Di Wanqing touched his broken eyebrow and said after thinking for a long time. After thinking for a long time he said, if it were me, I wouldn't be surprised. Di Wanqing wasn't surprised to hear Di Wanqing's answer. He motioned for Di Wanqing to continue. Seeing the look in Di Wanqing's eyes, Di Wanqing spoke like a military advisor. Brother, D. King said D, creation family spy brother, D, and said, creation brother I, and man, of man, At this point we have to think deeply. This could very well mean that the Moon Empress disciple has made some sort of deal with the Beast Creation Garden, or it could be the Moon Empress herself. Now, I suggest that the Moon Empress disciple and the Beast Creation Garden reach some kind of deal. Now I suggest that we only maintain the cooperation with the Miao family, and let the Miao family use our only remaining Gardener Konjac seed to cultivate the Gardener Konjac seedling. Let's see if we can find the lost seed of Gardener Konjac with the help of the Gardener Konjac. If we can find it, everything will be fine. If we can't, it will be considered as giving the Lord an explanation. Otherwise, the Lord might cut off the deal with us. If we cut off the deal with the Lord, all our years of hard work will be in vain. Now, third sister is only one step away from the last step. If we don't kick that last step out, third sister won't be able to meet outsiders in her current state. As he spoke, Di Wanqing's face revealed a trace of regret. Di Wanqing thought to himself, back when he was negotiating with Miao Zhinshan, he should have played some tricks. Or perhaps he could have increased the pressure on the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden. That way, the Beast Creation Garden would not be able to take the initiative to contact the Moon Empress disciple. Di Wanqing usually had the final say in the Whale Ocean trade. Di Di Wantian was the one who made the decisions for important matters, and Di Wanqing would execute them. However, Di Wantian would always ask for Di Wanqing's opinion before making a decision. This time Di Wantian was prepared to go all out. During the process of the whale ocean trade and the official faction Cultivation Garden's attitude toward the whale ocean trade had changed slightly. This meant that Tian Feng, one of the 13 highnesses, might have sensed the abnormality in the whale ocean trade. Being noticed by a highness made Di Wantian feel like there was a thorn in his back. He felt that there was not much time left for the whale ocean trade and Third Sister. If Third Sister couldn't take another step forward during this period of time, then the whale ocean trade would stop. However, if Third Sister took another step forward, the current situation of the Radiance trade would be rewritten. The whale ocean trade would also jump out of the scope of the top factions. The Moon Empress, Bamboo Monarch and Chef Supreme had such fame and power. It was because they were all Class 5 creation masters. Now, Third Sister had vaguely found the path from a pinnacle Class 4 creation master to a Class 5 creation master. Even though this path was against the heavens, every step on this path was like dancing on the tip of a blade. However, no one in the whale ocean trade would give up this opportunity to change the faction's fate. Now that the Miao family was involved with the Moon Empress disciple, it was impossible that the Moon Empress disciple had made such a huge investment without a purpose. In the future, the Beast Creation Garden and the Moon Empress disciple would definitely have some contact. Even if the Miao family announced that they were going into seclusion, they couldn't possibly not meet the Moon Empress disciple. Perhaps the whale ocean trade, which had already attracted the attention of one highness, could no longer afford the attention of another highness. After thinking about it, Di Wantian stood up and said, "I'm going to see Third Sister. The cooperation with the Miao family will continue. As for the other actions, let's postpone them for now." That lord sent a message saying that he will make a trip to the Radiance trade. If I want Third Sister to take the final step, I might have to look for that lord for help. While speaking, Di Wantian's eyes flashed with a glint that was filled with a strong sense of scheming. It was unknown if Di Wantian was scheming against the Miao family or another highness. Or that lord in Di Wantian's eyes. Chapter 1157. After Lin Yuan returned to the mansion, he immediately looked for Listen. He had started preparing the materials needed to go to the Divine Wood Federation a few months ago. Although the preparatory work had been handed over to Listen, Lin Yuan had also inspected the results of his preparations several times. After Lin Yuan found Listen, he took out 30 diamond phase storage boxes and said to Lin Yuan, "Young master, these 30 phase storage boxes are basically filled with all kinds of materials." "Young master, these 30 phase storage boxes are basically filled with all kinds of materials. I have more time to prepare the materials for you to go to the Divine Wood Federation than to prepare the materials for the Swamp World." When preparing the materials for the Swamp World, even though time was tight, I didn't take this part of the materials needed to go to the Divine Wood Federation. Can be said that these materials are very complete. "Young master, what do you think of these materials I prepared?" As he spoke, Listen's face was full of joy and reverence. Listen's temperament was very calm, and he had maxed out his interpersonal skills. Thus, when talking to anyone, Listen would be able to speak with propriety. This was the first time Lin Yuan had heard Listen ask for praise since he had known him. Lin Yuan saw the smile on Listen's face and the look of worship in his eyes. Lin Yuan knew that a large part of the reason for Listen's current performance was the destruction of Indigo Azure City's Xing family. Now that the hatred in Listen's heart had finally been avenged, it could be considered an explanation for his deceased family. Lin Yuan was not going to check the materials that Listen had prepared for him. This was because Lin Yuan recognized and trusted Listen's ability to handle matters. However, since Listen now showed an expression of asking for praise, Lin Yuan carefully checked the materials he had prepared. After checking, Lin Yuan secretly marveled in his heart. It could be said that the comprehensive materials Listen had prepared completely exceeded Lin Yuan's expectations. The materials prepared by Listen might not be enough to build the infrastructure of the Divine Wood Federation's forbidden area. However, it would not be a problem to build a rough prototype. Lin Yuan praised Listen, making him as happy as a fool. Then Lin Yuan solemnly said to Listen, "Listen, I still need you to personally go to Indigo Azure City and hand over all the Xing family's luxury goods resources from Xing Cayenne. Then transfer as much of the Jing family's Indigo Azure City's luxury goods resources to the royal capital. After receiving the luxury goods resources of the Jing family, the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce can officially start making profits in all aspects. After the Heavenly Craft Pavilion's production increases, I can use the royal capital as the center and sell luxury goods to all of Radiance. When I get to the Divine Wood Federation, I will explore the situation of the Divine Wood Federation and see what their demand for luxury goods is. If the Divine Wood Federation also has a demand for luxury goods, we can trade with the Divine Wood Federation even without going through the Island Whale. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's instructions, Listen nodded solemnly. Lin Yuan had told him about Jing Kaiyan's punishment before. Listen did not have any hatred for Jing Kaiyan, because even though Jing Kaiyan had the blood of the Jing family flowing in his veins, he was also a part of the Jing family that wanted to be destroyed. Lin Yuan's selling to Quan Huiyao had aroused Listen's strong motivation. This would also be Listen's next goal. After Listen left, Hu Quan said excitedly to Lin Yuan, "Lin Yuan, I have chosen the spirit craftsman. This time we've picked the best from the worst. The ones we've chosen are all pretty good." After saying that, he winked meaningfully at Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan knew what Hu Quan meant by picking the best from the worst. The spirit craftsmen accepted by the Heavenly Craft Pavilion were all top-notch in terms of business, and there was no such thing as picking the best from the worst. Hu Quan was referring to the loyalty of these spirit craftsmen. The spirit craftsmen selected now were far from the 35 spirit craftsmen in the swamp world. As soon as they heard about the mission, no matter how long they had to live in seclusion or ask for the reward, they immediately responded. Although these spirit craftsmen had everything, they were also trustworthy. "Uncle Hu, I may not be able to bring all of these 50 spirit craftsmen over. After the spatial tunnel is set up, I can be sure that the spatial crystals in my hands can allow me to go back and forth between the royal capital and the Divine Wood Federation a few times through the spatial tunnel." While speaking, Lin Yuan thought to himself, "I really should find some phase that can produce spatial spiritual materials. Otherwise, the number of spatial crystals condensed by the ethereal jellyfish's gold ability, wandering fishing, would be really limited. It would definitely not be able to meet my needs between the Divine Wood Federation and the Radiance Federation." It was all thanks to the treasure artifact made of the treasure cave golden toad's skin and stomach sac that Chef Supreme had given me. Otherwise, it would not just be a problem to bring people to the swamp world through the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone's Klein Hub. Even if he went to the Divine Wood Federation through the spatial tunnel, Lin Yuan could only bring 1 or 2 people at most. Fan Hanxing had already sent over the Brahma insect cage's dark crystal beetle, and the 3 dark crystal beetles were raised in Lin Yuan's Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. They began to absorb the pure spirit qi in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone and produce shells. Lin Yuan had reported to the Moon Empress that he was going to the Divine Wood Federation to train, and he had also branched out a total of 100 spirit containment peonies in the Pure Land of Bliss. Everything in the Radiance Federation was operating safely, and Lin Yuan did not need to spend any effort. Lin Yuan only needed to ensure that he could bring Wen Yu over every 7 days or come back to hold a celestial council. Lin Yuan was going to the Divine Wood Federation to broaden his horizons and increase his strength. Lin Yuan and Lu Jia had the same goal in 2 years, which was to fight for the position of Radiance Envoy. Therefore Lin Yuan had asked Lu Jia long ago if he had plans to train together. Lu Jia was Sky City's white-clothed majordomo and was in charge of the white-clothed followers. Now that the white-clothed followers had been taken out by Duan He to train, Lu Jia had nothing to do. Therefore Lu Jia gladly chose to go to the Divine Wood Federation with Lin Yuan to train together. In fact, Lu Jia had always had a dream in his heart, which was to follow Lin Yuan and perform his duties as a retainer knight. To be the sword in Lin Yuan's hand and the shield in front of him. Even though Lu Jia had become His Majesty's disciple. Nevertheless, the thoughts and dreams in his heart had not changed. That was because the dawn in the desperate situation had been deeply integrated into the depths of Lu Jia's soul, giving birth to an unshakable belief. Lin Yuan first returned to his room to take a few more clothes and put them in the amber button-shaped diamond face storage box. Then he used black to carry Hu Quan to the entrance of the underground space behind the return from Faraway Manor. Lin Yuan found that Lu Jia had been waiting at the entrance since some time ago. He was commanding the Insect Queen's shield ladybugs to help the spirit craftsman transport the stone slabs. Upon seeing Lin Yuan come over, Lu Jie no longer helped these spirit craftsmen. Instead, he put away the insect queen and came to Lin Yuan's side. Chapter 1158. Lin Yuan, the number of insect-type carcinoma phase that my insect queen controls has basically reached a bottleneck. For the time being, there is no need to go to the land of spirit suppression and let the insect queen control the other insect-type carcinoma phase. I have applied for leave from Master. I don't have anything else to do before the Radiance 100 sequence. When you return to the Radiance Federation, I can always help you guard the Divine Wood Federation. Currently, Lu Jie was wearing a half-body armor made of ordinary materials. Lu Jie looked like an ordinary adventurer when he wore it. Upon seeing Lu Jie's attire, Lin Yuan felt that he really did not look like an adventurer. Instead, he looked like a young master from a big family who was out for a vacation. Before going to the Divine Wood Federation to train, he had already done his homework. He had a certain understanding of the entire Ahiwan continent in advance. His and Lu Jie's appearances were different from those of the natives of the Divine Wood Federation and the Iron Hammer Federation. It was just like how he could recognize at a glance that those people in the evolving water world dimensional rift were not from the Radiance Federation. The natives of the Divine Wood Federation and the Iron Hammer Federation could also easily see that Lin Yuan was an outsider. However, he did not need to deliberately use those phase that could change his appearance to deliberately adjust his facial features. This was because the Deep Lush Federation's people also had the same appearance as the Radiance Federation's people: black hair and black eyes. However, it was said that the people of the Divine Wood Federation and the Iron Hammer Federation were not friendly to the people of the Deep Brahmin Federation who were good at trade. There were many who attacked the Deep Brahmin Federation's trade groups to steal their resources and shift the blame onto them. With Lu Jie and his looks, it would not be easy for them to mingle in the Divine Wood Federation. Lin Yuan had his own goals for going to the Divine Wood Federation or the Agon continent. The three major federations of the Shockwave continent were neighbors to each other and formed a unique civilization. This civilization was completely different from the Radiance Federation's civilization. Lin Yuan wanted to try and see if he could integrate the resources of the Divine Wood Iron Hammer and Deep Brahmin Federations. With the help of the Divine Wood Iron Hammer and the resources of the Deep Lush Federation, Sky City would grow rapidly. Then Sky City would have the ability to fight against the legendary Pagoda Cannon. Of course, this was only Lin Yuan's goal. After all, he had not really set foot on the Divine Wood Federation's land yet. While walking in the underground tunnel, Lin Yuan watched the spirit craftsmen carve beast totems on the tunnel's stone walls. On the totem, there were wolf beasts howling at the moon, tiger beasts hiding in the mountains, deer beasts hiding in the forest, and elephant beasts plucking trees. Each ferocious beast had its own form in the hands of a spirit craftsman. Lin Yuan previously had 100 heaven and earth phase, the Sun Reflection King Lotus. These Reflection Sun Monarch Lotuses had been nurtured by Master Zhou Xian and had been placed in the underground space. The roots of the newborn Shining Sun King Lotus were tightly connected to the roots of the Shining Sun King Lotus mother plant in the hidden Flood Dragon Lake, using the sunlight absorbed by the mother plant. The entire underground space was as bright as day. As he looked at the Reflection Sun King Lotuses that were emitting radiance, Lin Yuan felt that it was a pity. Although the Reflection Sun Monarch Lotus could absorb sunlight and store it, but when it was released again it was no longer pure sunlight. A part of the sunlight as nutrients had already been absorbed by the Reflection Sun King Lotus. Therefore, the light emitted by the Sun Reflection King Lotus could not be considered as a sunny day and gray could not absorb it. Otherwise, the 99 Reflection Sun King Lotuses could absorb sunlight together and quickly raise gray's level and the power of weather transformation. At that moment, Hu Quan did not know if Lin Yuan was sighing at the Reflection Sun King Lotus or the wall. Hu Quan subconsciously thought that Lin Yuan didn't like the 100 beast totems carved on the wall, so he quickly explained. Lin Yuan, take a closer look at the 100 beast totems carved on the walls. Half of each beast totem is carved with triangular lines. I've specially designed and combined these triangular lines to make the walls stronger. Upon hearing Hu Quan's explanation, Lin Yuan replied with a smile. Then when we get to the Divine Wood Federation, why don't we just copy the wall totem designed by Uncle Hu? Right now, we've built an underground space under the manor. Firstly, it's to shield us from detection. Secondly, it's for convenience. However, the Divine Wood Federation is different from the Radiance Federation. Everywhere is our territory. We still need to enhance the defensive capabilities of the construction over there, and we also need to improve the anti-detection capabilities. Hu Quan nodded excitedly. The more Lin Yuan requested, the better the spiritual materials he would use, and the more challenging it would be for him. At that time he would have a greater sense of accomplishment after completing the task. He walked all the way to the end of the underground space. Lin Yuan found that the place he had specially requested was built much more sturdy than the outside. Obviously Hu Quan had spent a lot of effort on this. Lin Yuan summoned the ethereal jellyfish and let it sense it. As a result, the ethereal jellyfish sensed for a long time before it faintly sensed a faint spatial fluctuation inside the wall. Hu Quan said confidently, "Young master, I've added a lot of spatial soft silver threads inside this wall. Apart from leaving the spatial soft silver needed for the Fey carriage, I've used all the remaining spatial soft silver threads here. I've also specially looked for the Mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer to sense it. Neither of them are spatial type Fays, so they can't find the abnormalities inside the mountain without circulating their spiritual power. Even when Endless Summer circulates spiritual power, she can only feel that the interior of the mountain is hollow after touching it with her hand to sense it." Lin Yuan listened to Hu Quan's words and then looked at his expression. Lin Yuan immediately heard another layer of meaning in Hu Quan's words. If he wanted to have such a good anti-detection effect over at the Divine Wood Federation, he would need to get more spatial soft silver. Now Lin Yuan no longer had such a metal spiritual material. However, Lin Yuan had also prepared some spiritual materials produced in the Radiance Federation that had a spatial isolation effect. He could also go to the Divine Wood Federation to collect those spiritual materials that the Radiance Federation did not have. Many of the Divine Wood Federation's Fays were unfamiliar and unknown to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan first took out the spatial mother shellfish's half shell from the spirit lock spatial zone. He then ordered the ethereal jellyfish to release its exclusive skill, Space Tunnel. In an instant, Lin Yuan felt a violent spatial fluctuation appear in front of him. A crack suddenly appeared in the space in front of him. Lin Yuan immediately threw the spatial mother shellfish's half shell into this crack. When the spatial mother shellfish's shell was in Lin Yuan's hand, it was like an ordinary silver ornament and did not react. However, after it was thrown into the torn space, it was activated by the spatial power. The spatial power released by the spatial mother shellfish's half shell immediately penetrated the spatial distance between the Radiance Federation and the Divine Wood Federation. End of this chapter. Chapter 1159. In the end, the crack expanded into a huge arch that was 3 meters wide and 2 meters tall. The spatial energy on the arched door condensed into one magnificent silver rune after another. More and more beautiful silver runes appeared, directly freezing the huge arched door formed by the spatial crack here forever. At that moment, the spatial tunnel from the Radiance Federation to the Divine Wood Federation finally opened. He could finally make his first trip to the Divine Wood Federation. Lin Yuan did not have many spatial spiritual ingredients on hand, so he could not be an empty driver on this trip no matter what. He needed to store Hu Quan and Lu Jia in the treasure cave golden toad's skin and stomach sac. Furthermore, looking at the size of the remaining space, he decided to accommodate a few more spirit craftsmen. Therefore Lin Yuan said to Hu Quan and Lu Jia, "Uncle Hu, Brother Lu, you two will have to suffer inside this prized artifact for a while, otherwise you will not be able to make it through this spatial passageway. When we reach the Divine Wood Federation, I'll let you out immediately." As soon as he said that, he suddenly recalled that Feng Shuang, Old He, and Hu Tian, who were the Class 4 creation masters that he had taken in from the Zheng family, were still inside the treasure cave Golden Toad. Even if Feng Shuang, Old He, and Hu Tian swore an oath with willpower runes. However, the three of them had just followed him, so they did not have Lin Yuan's full trust. In order to ensure their safety, Lin Yuan immediately let the Void Shadow Devil escape into Lu Jia's shadow. Only then did Lu Jia and Hu Quan enter the treasure cave Golden Toad's skin and stomach pouch. Then he went to the entrance and called in a few spirit craftsmen that Hu Quan had selected in advance and let them enter the treasure. After barely accommodating 10 people, he took out the spatial crystal condensed by the ethereal jellyfish's gold ability, Wandering Fishing. Ever since the ethereal jellyfish reached Diamond X/Legend, It had condensed 24 spatial crystals. He threw a spatial crystal into the spatial tunnel that had just formed in front of him. After waiting for a moment, he found that the spatial tunnel did not have the slightest reaction. He knew that this was because one spatial crystal simply could not meet the conditions to activate the spatial tunnel and teleport. 1, 2, 4. When Lin Yuan threw the 8th one, the silver symbol on the spatial tunnel seemed to move. A huge suction force sucked Lin Yuan into the spatial tunnel. When he came out from the other end of the spatial tunnel, he sat on the ground. He felt as if the world was spinning, as if there were 100 little ducks flying above his head. Lin Yuan, who was still in a daze, could not help but curse. Damn. Super long-distance teleportation is too uncomfortable. After resting for about 5 minutes, Lin Yuan recovered from the vertigo of the ultra-long-distance spatial teleportation. Lin Yuan had been able to recover so quickly thanks to the impurities in his body. If an ordinary person were to pass through the space tunnel, they would probably faint from the ultra-long-distance teleportation. After recovering from the dizziness, Lin Yuan immediately released Huquan Lujia, the Zheng family's 3 Class 4 creation masters, and 5 spirit craftsmen from the Treasure Cave Golden Toad. The 10 of them had to stick close to each other inside the Treasure Cave Golden Toad artifact. If not for the fact that they were both wearing clothes, the distance between them would have become negative. This situation was simply torture. He did not want Huquan and Lu Jietai to suffer inside. After releasing everyone from the Treasure Cave Golden Toad artifact, Lin Yuan finally had time to explore the foothold that Mystic Moon had found for him. It was also the location where he had set up the spatial tunnel in the Divine Wood Federation. Lin Yuan looked around and saw solid stone walls all around. Looking at the surrounding environment, Lin Yuan really could not see anything for a moment. However, he knew that he should be in a crypt at this time. Regardless of whether Lin Yuan was satisfied with the place that Mystic Moon had found after exploring the surface, just the layout in front of him showed that Mystic Moon had put in a lot of effort. When he looked up, he found that the entrance to the crypt seemed to be blocked by something. Faintly, sunlight shone down from above. It was with this faint light that Lin Yuan could see the surrounding environment. The surrounding walls were almost embedded with the platinum spiritual material void-cut tungsten. Void-cut tungsten was a metal spiritual material that could isolate spatial detection in the Radiance Federation and was mostly used to build Fey vehicles. It was also embedded in the walls of high-class creation masters' breeding rooms to isolate detection. Although the void-cut tungsten was also a metal spiritual material that shielded detection, it was not on the same level as the spatial soft silver. The spatial soft silver's effect crushed the void-cut tungsten in all aspects. In the Radiance Federation, spatial-type metals were rarely circulated in the market. Any ordinary spatial-type spiritual material could be sold at an absolute high price in the rare lifeform pavilion. Lin Yuan had a deep understanding of this. He heard that the Radiance Federation's spatial spiritual material prices were so high mainly because of Ostrich Logistics' monopoly. Anyway, if Lin Yuan wanted to buy spatial spiritual material goods in the Star Web's rare lifeform pavilion, he would not be able to buy many of them even if he spent a lot of money. Mystic Moon must have set up the void-cut tungsten on the walls because she was afraid that the spatial tunnel would be detected when it opened. Looking at the faint light cast down from about 40 meters above his head, Lin Yuan felt that Mystic Moon had dug this hole very well. The spatial tunnel opened underground, and his base in the Divine Wood Federation could be expanded with this hole as the core. Huquan looked at the void-cut tungsten on the wall and clapped his hands. Lin Yuan, the void-cut tungsten on this wall is at least 1,000 kilograms. When the time comes, I'll let my jade-slaying saber mantis cut these void-cut tungsten into pieces and mix them with the soil to condense them into stones. Using these stones mixed with void-cut tungsten to build the underground palace is enough to achieve the most basic shielding effect. In the future, if you want to strengthen the shielding effect, find some corresponding spiritual materials and embed them into the wall. While speaking, Huquan had already begun to reach out to touch the rock wall to feel the rock wall's quality and composition. His blood was boiling and he was ready to go all out. Huquan, who was probing the wall, shouted at the 5 spirit craftsmen standing behind him. "You 5 brats, come and help me. Split into 5 directions and dig out some stones from the walls of the cave. Look at the ratio of sand, stones and crystalline materials in this rock wall. When I touch this rock wall, I always feel that the sand content in the rock wall is too high. If we build an underground palace, we can't count on these rock walls to bear the weight. We have to use metal spiritual materials to build the beams. Upon hearing Hu Quan's words, Lin Yuan threw the materials of the 30 diamond face storage boxes that Listen had prepared to Hu Quan. Uncle Hu, we don't need to worry about the materials you mentioned. With the spiritual materials of these 30 diamond face storage boxes, it shouldn't be a problem to build a basic underground palace with an area of 1,000 square meters. End of this chapter. Chapter 1160. Lin Yuan paused and continued, "It's just that I need too many spatial spiritual materials to pass through the spatial tunnel at once. It's just that I need too many spatial spirit materials to pass through the spatial passageway. I only have enough spatial spirit materials on hand to go back and come back again. The next Celestial Body Conference will begin in 3 days. I have to make a trip back. Therefore, Uncle Hu can only lead the 5 of them in the early stage." Lin Yuan felt a little helpless. He would have to endure ultra-long-distance teleportation in the future, so it was fine to suffer that dizziness. He would get used to it after experiencing it a few more times. However, the spatial spiritual materials needed to pass through the spatial tunnel far exceeded Lin Yuan's expectations. Lin Yuan decided that his next goal in the Divine Wood Federation would be to focus on obtaining spatial spiritual materials. Otherwise, after a few trips, he would not even be able to satisfy the Celestial Council that happened once every 7 days. The Celestial Council was very easy for those who contracted the northern and southern constellations. As long as they entered the dream at a specific time, they could be introduced to the Celestial Council. However, those who sat on the 12 ecliptic constellations' main constellations needed to enter the Celestial Council with Wen-Yu's guidance before they could use the Celestial Council's functional astral throne. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Hu Quan nonchalantly reached out and patted the surrounding walls. The progress of building the underground palace will be a little slower with 5 brats. However, as long as there are enough materials, we can build the general layout of the underground palace in half a month, not counting the details. But all this is based on the premise that the underground sand and stones are cleared. Without a special fay to clear out this underground space, it would be good if the few of us could dig out 50 square meters of space in a day. Upon hearing Hu Quan's words, Lin Yuan smiled slightly and replied, "That's simple. That's simple. Leave the matter of expanding the underground space to me. But before we do it, we need to go up and see the environment." After saying that, Lin Yuan nodded at Wuxia. Upon seeing that, Wuxia immediately summoned the Insect Queen and let it enter production mode. The Insect Queen turned into a huge insect nest and produced 10 hurricane owlet moths in a moment. After the 10 hurricane owlet moths were produced, Wuxia let the Insect Queen return to the appearance of a fairy. Then each of the 10 hurricane owlet moths grabbed a target and used their wings to raise a hurricane to blow away the cover covering the crypt. It brought Lin Yuan and the others to the surface. It was already a silent night in the Radiance Federation, but it was only noon in the Divine Wood Federation. It was the time when the sun was at its best. After being brought out of the cave by the hurricane owlet moth, Lin Yuan was shocked by the scene before him. Lin Yuan felt that he was in a primitive forest, and all sorts of tall plants entered his eyes. There was a huge tree less than 10 meters away from him. The tree was nearly 30 meters tall. Even if 5 people spread out their arms, they might not be able to hug the trunk of the tree. There were many such towering trees, almost one every 50 meters. Even in the gaps between these giant trees, there were many small trees and all kinds of plants growing savagely. At this moment, a little squirrel ran over in a panic from afar. Upon seeing Lin Yuan and the others, the little squirrel was startled. It then ran to Lin Yuan's side and sniffed his scent. Then it ran to Lin Yuan's shoulder like a wisp of smoke. Suddenly, a ferocious beast's roar came from afar. Lin Yuan saw a long-haired dog-like fay that was over 1 meter long and covered in blackish-brown fur chasing over. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan immediately used Morbius True Data to investigate this long-haired dog-like fay. After investigating, Lin Yuan found out that this long-haired dog-like fay was a bronze 4/normal mottled hound. Its exclusive skill was mange poison. Mange poison. After the skin scars hidden under the long fur are broken, infectious pus will flow out. When the pus touches the target, it will infect the target, causing the target's skin to itch and fester. It could be said that this bronze-mottled hound had a very disgusting exclusive skill, and Lin Yuan did not want his skin to be infected with the mange poison. Upon seeing Lin Yuan and the others, the mottled hound barked non-stop. It was as though it was threatening Lin Yuan and the others. However, with so many people on Lin Yuan's side, the mottled hound obviously wanted to retreat. However, when it saw the squirrel lying on Lin Yuan's shoulder, it bared its fangs. Saliva flowed out of its open mouth, and it assumed a posture that it was ready to attack. Upon seeing this, Lu Jie commanded the hurricane owlet moth to blow the mottled hound away. A hurricane sent the mottled hound into the sky, and it was unknown how long it would take for it to land again. After the mottled hound flew into the sky, Lin Yuan tilted his head to observe the little squirrel on his shoulder. If it was in the past, Lin Yuan naturally would not use true data to investigate this inconspicuous little squirrel. However, now that he was in the Divine Wood Federation, fays were different due to the continent's different species. Lin Yuan had never seen this squirrel or the mottled hound in the Radiance Federation, so he was naturally interested. After investigating, Lin Yuan did not find any data at all. This meant that this little squirrel was not a fey at all. This discovery surprised Lin Yuan. This little squirrel was not even a fey, so how did it run past that swift mottled hound? Lin Yuan tentatively extended his hand to his shoulder, wanting to touch this little squirrel. As a result, this little squirrel immediately became vigilant and did not give Lin Yuan a chance to touch at all. The little squirrel agilely hid from Lin Yuan and started to hide from him. Just as Lu Jie wanted to help Lin Yuan catch the little squirrel, Lin Yuan circulated his spiritual power and waved his palm at the little squirrel. In the end, the little squirrel jumped onto Lin Yuan's palm as though it was clinging to him. It began to roll on his palm. Lin Yuan could only circulate his spirit qi for an instant. Thus, when the squirrel jumped onto Lin Yuan's palm, it could no longer sense the pure spirit qi in Lin Yuan's palm. The little squirrel was so anxious that it spun around on Lin Yuan's palm and curled up its paws before taking small steps. His small eyes were filled with doubt. While the little squirrel's eyes were filled with doubt, Lin Yuan's eyes were also filled with doubt. This little guy's reaction to pure spiritual energy was way too sensitive. He had only circulated his spiritual energy for a short period of time, so even the insect queen, who had always been sensitive to pure spiritual energy, did not sense it. Lin Yuan thought to himself when he saw the squirrel clinging to him. "All right. Since you're clinging to me and not willing to leave, then stay with me." Lin Yuan planned to have a good look at this little squirrel's special features when he had time. He would try to channel pure spirit qi into this little squirrel's body and see if it would obtain abilities and transform into a fey like Genius and Chimey. Chapter 1161. While Lin Yuan was observing the little squirrel, Hu Quan had already checked the surroundings. Hu Quan said in surprise, "Young master, the surrounding trees are all ironwood. These ironwoods are far more useful than metal scraps after they're crushed. Ironwood is sticky, and when mixed with gravel, it can make the gravel as flexible and malleable as metal. The landscape here is a forest, so there must be a water source deep underground. Ironwood fragments mixed with sand and stones can be spread on the outermost layer of the underground palace to effectively keep out water. Also, ironwood won't rust and corrode like metal spirit materials for a long time." Since Hu Quan had said that, Lin Yuan immediately shook his sleeves. The amber button-shaped source sand landed on the ground and turned into sand grains that drilled into the ground under Lin Yuan's feet. The source sand was no longer a gold/fantasy breed fey. He had already upgraded the source sand to Diamond Eye/fantasy 2. Therefore, it was a piece of cake for the source sand to change the underground environment. Sand creation was the most basic ability of the source sand. Soon, the guard sand swept up a large amount of sand like a giant dragon and swept up the land under Lin Yuan's feet. With the portal formed by the space tunnel as the center, it quickly crushed the sand and stones 10 meters below the ground. At the same time, the source sand extracted the roots of the ironwood from the gravel. As the sand flowed, all the ironwood trees within a 2-kilometer radius were gathered together. These ironwood were the materials that Hu Quan would need to build the underground palace. At the same time, Lu Jie let the 10 hurricane owlet moths probe in 10 directions. Lu Jie sensed what the 10 hurricane owlet moths were seeing through his mental connection with the insect queen. He then took a piece of paper and a pen out of his diamond face storage box and drew a simple map of the surroundings. In the process of commanding the source sand to transform the underground environment, he also let it transform the surface environment. However, Lin Yuan's modification of the ground environment was only 1 meter thick. The remaining 9 meters were soil mixed with sand and gravel. Once he got busy, for hours had passed unknowingly. During this period he released Little Black and let it use spirit injection on him and Wuxia every few minutes. Blackie was now a diamond/fantasy breed fae. Therefore, even if he wantonly urged the source sand to change the terrain, the spirit chi would always be maintained at a half-full state. He had already transformed the surface and underground topography within a 2-kilometer radius. Lin Yuan's modification of the surface was also very meticulous. This was because the remodeling of the surface of the earth would affect Yinhua's progress in nurturing the bone lotuses. It was undoubtedly more convenient for the bone lotus to move around in the sand than in the wet and sticky soil. In essence, the bone lotus was a derivative of the silver essence and it fed on souls. There was no need to obtain nutrients from the soil. After working for 4 hours in a row, Lin Yuan's body had maintained sufficient spiritual power. However, he still felt very tired after controlling the source sand to transform the surface and underground terrain for 4 hours. Lin Yuan said to Hu Quan, who was making metal racks with the 5 spirit craftsmen, "Uncle Hu, you can go underground and build the framework of the underground palace now. You guys have to work hard during this period of time. You must build the framework as soon as possible. Otherwise, if there are a few heavy rains and the water seeps into the ground, making it wet, it will be very dirty and troublesome for you to carry out your work." After saying that, Lin Yuan looked at Feng Shuang, Old He, and Hu Tian, who had been standing behind him and did not dare to make a sound. "The 3 of you go and help too. Hu Tian, your face can play a big role in the process of building the underground palace's framework. Feng Shuang, Old He, your face might not be very useful, but you can help out a little." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Feng Shuang, Old He, and Hu Tian were shocked. From the conversation between Lin Yuan and the others, the 3 of them knew that they were in the Divine Wood Federation. Although the 3 of them were Class 4 creation masters, they had good insight. However, in their understanding, the only way to cross the Federation was through the Island Whale. Obviously, Lin Yuan had not come to the Divine Wood Federation through the Island Whale. This made the 3 of them feel that Lin Yuan had become more mysterious. Moreover, Feng Shuang had recognized Wuxia when he had just entered the treasure cave Golden Toad. Hu Tian and Old He had also recognized Wuxia after he had summoned the Insect Queen. The 3 of them were secretly guessing in their hearts. Could it be that Wuxia, a Radiance 100 sequence member, had also joined Sky City? Was he a member of Sky City? While the 3 of them were still in shock, their minds were spinning rapidly. The trio had been thinking about how to strike up a conversation with Lin Yuan and express themselves. In a new environment, Lin Yuan did not bring any creation masters and only brought 6 spirit craftsmen. The 3 of them thought that they were about to be put in an important position. However, not only had Lin Yuan not put them in an important position, but he had also asked them to be the spirit craftsmen's assistants. This was the first time the trio was doubting if a creation master was a noble occupation. However, even if the 3 of them were unwilling to assist the spirit craftsmen, they had no choice but to carry out Lin Yuan's orders. Hu Tian, who believed that he had the best relationship with Lin Yuan and was most valued by Lin Yuan, asked carefully, "Master, are we going to hide from the world here from now on?" Lin Yuan shook his head in response. "This is not a place for you 3 to hide from the world. The 3 of you don't have any devious thoughts. Just focus on the work you've been assigned. Once we reach the place of seclusion, we will need to do these chores. I don't lack creation master resources here. The 3 of you might be Class 4 creation masters, but doing these chores will be more useful to me than doing other things." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Hu Tian, Feng Shuang, and Old He were completely dumbfounded. The trio finally understood that Lin Yuan did not take their identities as Class 4 creation masters seriously at all. How many creation master resources did Sky City have? That was why Lin Yuan was willing to let the 3 of them not concoct the spirit fluid but work hard here. Feng Shuang gritted her teeth and summoned her Land Emperor Crocodile. She asked the Land Emperor Crocodile to take the initiative to transport the metal frame that Hu Quan and the others had just set up in 4 hours. Seeing that Feng Shuang was the first to move, Lin Yuan said, Feng Shuang, you did well. Feng Shuang, you did well. As a reward, when your Fei evolves, regardless of whether you need to undergo the world cleansing or the creation tribulation, I will send someone to help you get through them safely. While speaking, Lin Yuan threw 5 Earth-type Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls to Feng Shuang as a reward. Chapter 1162. Upon receiving Lin Yuan's praise, Feng Shuang's face immediately revealed an abnormally surprised expression. He repeatedly expressed his sincerity to Lin Yuan. In addition, Lin Yuan's reward of 5 Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls made Hu Tian and Old He envious. He put in all his effort and threw himself into the work of assisting the spirit craftsman. Lu Jie, who had been drawing a map with the help of the hurricane owlet moths, suddenly spoke. Lin Yuan, I have almost mapped out the area within 50 kilometers in 4 hours. According to my detection, there is a town 50 kilometers to the east. There are a large number of natives of the Divine Wood Federation living in this town. There's nothing special in the west and south within 100 kilometers. It's still a lush forest. However, the water vapor in the environment 50 kilometers to the south is clearly much heavier. There should be a relatively large inland lake in the south. Head north for 90 kilometers and you'll reach the edge of the forest. The environment outside the edge of the forest is obviously much more desolate, as if there is a clear dividing line. One end of the dividing line is overgrown with trees, while the other end is terrifyingly barren, with almost no vegetation growing. Less than 5 kilometers away from the demarcation line, I saw a large number of tents stationed there, Wang Zhong said. There are all kinds of stalls outside these tents. It's like a huge market. The vendors at the market all have black hair and black eyes. Most of the sellers look rough and they wear leather jackets. From the looks of it, it should be the caravan of the Deep Lush Federation at the edge of the forest, using the specialties obtained from the Divine Wood Federation to trade with the people of the Iron Hammer Federation to earn the difference in price. When Lin Yuan heard Lu Jie talk about exploring the environment, he came to Lu Jie's side. He sat cross-legged like Lu Jie, listening to Lu Jie's explanation while looking at the map in his hand. Lu Jie wasn't a professional mapmaker. However, Lu Jie, who had gone on many missions in the wild in his early years, had no problem drawing a simple geographical environment. Lu Jie had also specially marked some noteworthy places within a 50-kilometer radius. He had been thinking about how long it would take for him to see human habitation after he arrived in the Divine Wood Federation. However, he did not expect that not only was there a town of the Divine Wood Federation 50 kilometers to the east, but there was also a market organized by the Deep Lush Federation's caravan 95 kilometers to the north. He was still wondering why he had not encountered any powerful fays in this deep mountain forest. While Lin Yuan was controlling the source sand to transform the land within a 2-kilometer radius, he discovered that the strongest fey was just a silver centipede hidden under the soil. Now the case was finally solved. Looking at the map drawn by Lu Jie, the location of his underground palace happened to be on the shortest route from the eastern town to the northern border. If the Deep Lush Federation's caravans wanted to make a profit, they would have to travel between the northern border and the eastern town. They used the Iron Hammer Federation's resources to trade with the natives of the Divine Wood Federation, or used the Divine Wood Federation's resources to trade with the Iron Hammer Federation's traders who traveled to and from the border. After all, given the tense relationship between the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation, the merchants of the Iron Hammer Federation did not have the guts to directly trade in the towns of the Divine Wood Federation. If the two sides wanted to exchange goods, they would have to pass through the Deep Vendor Federation's caravans. It seemed that this forest had already been swept through countless times by the city's 50 kilometers to the east and the caravan's 95 kilometers to the north. Lin Yuan's top priority now was to see if he could get some spatial spiritual materials. According to the environment that Lu Jie had scouted, he now had 2 choices. The first choice was to go to a town in the Divine Wood Federation 50 kilometers to the east to inquire. The other option was to take advantage of the ongoing gathering and ask the Deep Brahmin Federation's caravan. Both he and Lu Jie had black hair and black eyes, so it was not convenient for them to walk in the towns of the Divine Wood Federation. Hence, it was more reliable to head to the Deep Lush Federation's merchant caravans to gather information. Lin Yuan asked excitedly, "Brother Lu, Is the scale of the trade caravan gathering 95 li to the north big? Lu Jie shook his head. I can't tell how many people are in those tents with my hurricane owlet moth. However, there are only 200 to 300 stalls outside the tents. The scale is about the same as the small supply stations in the class 2-dimensional rifts that are controlled by our Radiance Federation. Lin Yuan was immediately a little disappointed. The Radiance Federation had ostrich logistics and the Star Web, and basic resources could be easily purchased on the Star Web. Therefore, it was very difficult to operate physical stores or stalls in the Radiance Federation. It was just like Lin Yuan's Face store, which could only provide food and clothing. Lin Yuan still had to rely on his old neighbors Auntie Zhang and Uncle Li to take care of him. However, the Divine Wood Federation was different. Even if the Divine Wood Federation had a faction like Ostrich Logistics that could deliver goods in the Federation within 3 hours. Without the Star Web, it was impossible to replicate the Radiance Federation's trade model. Moreover, the Divine Wood Federation might not necessarily have a faction like Ostrich Logistics. The Divine Wood Federation and even the entire Agoan continent basically adopted the trade model of setting up stalls for bartering or auctioning by large chambers of commerce. In this trade context, a small gathering of 200 to 300 stalls was really nothing. Lin Yuan felt that there should be no hope for him to trade for spatial spiritual materials from this small gathering. However, Lin Yuan was not depressed. At the very least, he could come into contact with the Agoan continent's natives as soon as possible and gather all kinds of information about the continent from them. In addition, the Deep Lush Federation's merchant caravans traveled all over the world, and this inconspicuous small caravan might know some channels. It could solve the problem of his lack of spatial spiritual materials. He would no longer have to worry about traveling between the Radiance Federation and the Divine Wood Federation. Just as Lin Yuan was about to suggest to Lu Jie that they go to the gathering 95 kilometers north to inquire about information and trade some resources, Lu Jie suddenly had a surprised expression on his face. The hurricane owlet moth found 5 figures when it was patrolling in the east. These 5 people are covered with half-body rattan armor woven from plant vines. Looks like they should be adventurers from the Divine Wood Federation. However, these 5 people shouldn't be adventurers from the town 65 kilometers away. Upon hearing Lu Jie's words, Lin Yuan felt a little strange and did not know what Lu Jie's judgment was based on. The adventurers from the Divine Wood Federation town 65 kilometers to the east were fully capable of traveling 40 kilometers. They were hunting fays or gathering spiritual materials 40 kilometers away. Upon seeing the puzzled expression on Lin Yuan's face, Lu Jie explained, "A small pond can't raise a big fish. The rattan armor worn by the guards in that town isn't as advanced as the rattan armor worn by these 5 adventurers. This doesn't make sense." End of this chapter. Chapter 1163. Lu Jie pondered for a moment before continuing. I'll let the hurricane owlet moths keep an eye on these 5 people and find out their purpose. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nodded and continued to look at Lu Jie's hand-drawn map. He did not mention the proposal to go to the Deep Enlightenment Federation's caravan gathering to inquire about information. Instead, he was going to wait for Lu Jie to find out the purpose of these 5 adventurers. After less than 10 minutes, Lu Jie said with a serious expression, "Lin Yuan, there's really something wrong with these 5 people. Lin Yuan, there's really something wrong with these 5 people. They don't care about the spiritual materials on the ground at all and only care about hurrying on their way. They also observe their surroundings very carefully. This means that these 5 people don't know their surroundings well. If I'm not wrong, these 5 people should be exploring the way." Exploring the way? If they were exploring the way, there must be more people behind. If a team could send 5 people to explore the way, it meant that this team must not be small. Lin Yuan did not expect to encounter such a situation as soon as he arrived in the Divine Wood Federation. Big Brother Lu, let a hurricane owlet moth keep an eye on them. The remaining hurricane owlet moths will expand the search area. If these people are exploring the way, the main force shouldn't be too far away. If there's really a main force behind, then we'll capture these 5 people to get information about the main force. Only the person with the highest status in the main force can bring us more useful information. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Lu Jie immediately took action. While Lu Jie was acting, Lin Yuan did not stay idle. He also let the source sand under his feet split into thumb-sized sand flows that spread in all directions. The more yellow sand he created, the stronger the source sand would be. It was not bad for Lin Yuan to create more sand now. After half an hour, Lu Jie's eyes lit up. 140 kilometers to the east, there are about 300 adventurers. These adventurers are wearing rattan armor, which is almost the same as the 5 adventurers who explored the way. It seems that the rattan armor they're wearing is a kind of standard equipment. There's a huge elephant beast in the other team of 300 adventurers. I don't know who it's carrying. The Divine Wood Federation's adventurers are very respectful to this person. I think this person has an extraordinary identity. Moreover, the 5 adventurers we just discovered are also rushing in our direction. It doesn't seem like the 5 of them intend to stop at a town 65 kilometers away. I'll bring them over now. Upon hearing Lu Jie's information, Lin Yuan thought to himself, this team should not be very strong. Otherwise, they would have discovered the hurricane owlet moths produced by Lu Jie's insect queen. At the thought of this, Lin Yuan was slightly startled and then smiled in relief. He had seen many king and emperor-level powerhouses, so he had subconsciously gotten used to looking at things from a higher perspective. This god-forsaken place wasn't even the Divine Wood Federation's big cities. How could there be any powerful spirit chi professionals? Soon, the hurricane owlet moth used the wind element to condense a chain and brought the 5 spies, who were wearing rattan armor and had been scared silly, to within 1 kilometer of them. Then Hurricane Knight left the 5 scouts behind and flew away. One of the scouts with a scar on his face wiped the saliva on his forehead from being lifted upside down. With a lingering fear, he stood up and cursed. Fuck. How strange. How can such a small place have such a powerful insect species flying fey? I don't know where we've been brought to and if we will delay Miss Luo Ye's mission. While the man with a scar on his face was complaining angrily, the other scout, who was as thin as a bamboo pole, also came back to his senses. We've been flying in the air for at least 20 minutes. When we were flying, I saw double images of the surrounding scenery. If that dog bug had flown in a straight line, we would have been pulled out at least 50 kilometers away. After saying that, the man who was as thin as a bamboo pole raised his hand skillfully and gave the other 3 companions, who hadn't come back to their senses, a slap on their necks. In an instant, the 3 companions' necks were red. The skinny man pointed to the youngest and richest fatty among them and said, "Fatty, it's you. You'll make the call to report the situation. Then we'll rush back immediately. I think Miss Luoya will be able to understand if we suddenly encountered a high-grade insect species flying fey and delayed the mission." At the end of his sentence, the skinny man clearly didn't have any confidence. When the fatty who was assigned to make the call heard the skinny man's words, his teeth couldn't help but tremble. "Brother Snake, I will make a call to report the situation. My mouth is so clumsy. What if I say something wrong during the report and make Miss Luoya angry?" The skinny man thought to himself. "You're speaking as if Miss Luoya wouldn't be angry if you weren't stupid with your mouth." Seeing that Fatty didn't want to make the call, the skinny man went up and gave him 2 kicks. Fatty, who had been kicked twice by the skinny man, had no choice but to pick up his phone reluctantly and make a call. After Fatty made the call, the 5 of them, including the skinny man, all had gloomy expressions on their faces. The scarred man couldn't help but ask, "It's over. This time each of us will receive at least 5 vine whips." As he spoke, the scarred man's eyes suddenly lit up. This was because the man with a scar on his face had noticed Lin Yuan and Lu Jia walking toward him. The man with a scar on his face immediately revealed a bloodthirsty smile and said to the skinny man standing beside him, "Brother Snake, our mission this time is to find the Deep Burn Federation's caravan on the border. Look at those 2 people. They might be members of the Deep Burn Federation's caravan." Before the scarred man spoke, the skinny man, Brother Snake, had already stared at Lin Yuan and Lu Jia. "If we capture these 2 people back, not only will we not be punished but we might even be rewarded. These 2 people look good. If we bring them back, Miss Luo, you will definitely have a good time." After saying that, the skinny man summoned a 5-meter-long snake-shaped fey and attacked Lin Yuan and Lu Jia. When the skinny man summoned the snake-shaped fey, Lin Yuan had already used Morbius True Data to investigate it. It was a bronze 9/normal chain snake. Its ability was Binding Lock, which could bind and control the target. Its exclusive skill was Body Extension. When binding the target, it could extend the cartilage in the body and make the body longer. It could lock multiple targets at the same time. When Lu Jie saw the Fey attacking Lin Yuan, he immediately prepared to counterattack. Just as Lu Jie was about to circulate his spiritual energy and summon the punching machine, Lin Yuan winked at Lu Jie meaningfully. Upon seeing this, Lu Jie did not summon the insect queen. At that moment, the chain snake was already close, and it impolitely used entanglement on Lin Yuan and Lu Jie. Chapter 1164. The chain snake stretched its body and tied Lin Yuan's and Lu Jie's arms and legs together. The skinny man, Big Brother Snake, also walked up with the other 4 scouts. Big Brother Snake bent down and carefully sized up Lin Yuan and Lu Jie. So handsome. With your looks, you should be qualified to serve Miss Luoya. You've become Miss Luoya's dinner plate. Upon hearing this skinny man's words, many small question marks appeared in Lin Yuan's head. He could understand serving that person named Luoya. But what did it mean to be a dinner plate? It couldn't be what I thought it meant, right? After checking Lin Yuan's and Lu Jie's appearances like goods, the skinny man patted the man with a scar on his face beside him and said, "Old Six, interrogate the 2 of them before taking them back. Old Six, interrogate the 2 of them before you bring them back. Find out who they are. If we get something out, we can go back and provide the information. We might even get more rewards. Miss Luoya is quite generous when rewarding people." The man with a scar on his face, Old Lu, immediately summoned a plant fey with clamp-like leaves. He said to Lu Jie and Lin Yuan with a sinister expression, "I'll ask you questions. I'll ask you a question. If you answer too slowly, you'll be pinched by my steel clip once. You're all Miss Luoya's toys. I'll pay attention to the strength and not break your legs. But I don't know if you can clamp your bones out of cracks. Anyway, Miss Luoya wants your faces, not your legs." As Old Six spoke, he even made his steel clip flower clamp its leaves twice, looking quite intimidating. Lin Yuan looked at the steel clip flower in front of him and was too lazy to use true data to check its attributes. This steel clamp flower looked like an extremely mediocre bronze fey. Lin Yuan did not directly make a move on this group of people, mainly wanting to take this opportunity to see the Divine Wood Federation's natives' attitude toward the Deep Brahmin Federation's people. He and Lu Jie did not do anything or say anything. As soon as they met, they were captured by the 5 adventurers in front of them. Lin Yuan could not help but be surprised. The Divine Wood Federation's natives' attitude toward the Deep Brahmin Federation's people shouldn't be so bad, right? It seemed that he and Lu Jie had been captured and made into slaves. After all, if the natives of the Divine Wood Federation wanted to obtain minerals, metals, and even large amounts of animal fur, they would need to trade with the caravans of the Deep Brahmin Federation. When Old Six saw that Lin Yuan and Lu Jie did not say anything, he thought that they were frightened by him. Old Six wanted to ask a question first. If the 2 of them didn't say anything after he asked the questions, he would teach them a lesson first. After being taught a lesson, the 2 of them would probably fight to spit out everything they knew. "When will your caravan return?" When Lin Yuan heard the scarred man's question, he immediately knew what was going on. It seemed like this group of people were heading for the Deep Vendor Federation's Chamber of Commerce 95 kilometers north. He didn't know that these people's goal was to rob the caravan's supplies. Or did he want to silence the Deep Lush Federation's caravan and frame the Iron Hammer Federation? In any case, he knew that he was destined to be unable to find out from these people the attitude of the Divine Wood Federation's natives toward the people of the Deep Lush Federation. In that case, there was no need for him to continue playing with these people. After waiting for 5 seconds and seeing that neither Lu Jie nor Lin Yuan had answered his question, Old Six said, "That's right." He ordered clip flower with a ferocious expression. "Steel clamp flower. First use the clamp force of 25 gene to teach these 2 things a lesson. I think these 2 people..." Before Old Six could finish, he was interrupted by Fatty, who was frowning. "Brother Snake, look at the 2 of them. They didn't even frown when we caught them. Isn't there something wrong?" Fatty's words reminded the skinny man, Brother Snake. As the leader of the scouting team, the skinny man, Big Brother Snake, had encountered plenty of Fays during missions. High-grade Fays would either attack and kill humans or hide far away. There was no such thing as an inexplicable release after capturing someone. Furthermore, that moth Fey that had captured them did not feed on flesh and blood, so there was no need for it to capture them. After they were captured, the 2 men from the Deep Lush Federation quickly appeared. This was too much of a coincidence. With that in mind, the skinny man immediately ordered his Fei, the chain snake, to crush Lu Jie and Lin Yuan's bodies. At that moment, the skinny man suddenly realized that he had lost control of his chain snake. It was unknown when two sand pillars had appeared under the feet of the two men from the Deep Lush Federation. The two sand pillars tightly bound the chain snake. After Lin Yuan pulled Lu Jie to stand up, he looked at the 5 people in front of him and raised his brows. You wanted to ask us questions just now. Now that time has changed, it's my turn to ask you questions. While the 5 spies were still in shock, Lin Yuan stomped on the ground and shouted, Just now you wanted to ask us questions. Boil source sand. Immediately after, a quicksand vortex with a diameter of half a meter appeared under each of the 5 spies' feet. The 5 spies struggled in the quicksand vortex, and each of them was tightly bound by 2 thumb-sized sand flows. The sand flow separated into several even finer quicksand that drilled into the 5 spies' rattan armor. After searching the 5 spies' bodies from inside out, they only found 5 mobile phones. The sand flow wrapped around the phones and handed them to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan chose 2 of the better-looking phones and threw one to Lu Jie, while he held the other in his hand. The other 3 phones were crushed by the sand flow. Lu Jie also waved his hand, and the hurricane owlet moth, which had just brought the 5 of them here, stopped in his palm. Upon seeing this, the 5 spies' teeth trembled violently. That moth-type Fey that had brought them here had indeed not appeared by chance. Thinking of what they had just said, the 5 of them had bitter expressions on their faces. The 5 of them understood that they were completely finished this time. Lin Yuan looked at the 5 people with ashen faces and said, I'll ask each of you one question. I will ask each of you one question. If you answer me well, I will give the 5 of you a chance to live. The sand stream that binds you is much stronger than that bronze-chained snake. Lin Yuan first walked in front of the 5 people who were trembling the most and asked, Why are you looking for the Deep Lush Federation's caravan? Why are you looking for the Deep Lush Federation's caravan? When the person who was trembling the most heard Lin Yuan's question, he subconsciously looked at the other 4. He was obviously concerned about the other 4 and did not dare to answer Lin Yuan's question. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan immediately commanded the source sand to separate out the platinum red lotus soft gold that metal consume manifestation had devoured. When the red lotus soft gold touched the body, it would cause severe pain from multiple levels. Even Muscle Man would cry if he touched it. Hundreds of red lotus soft gold silk threads separated from the 2 sand flows, wrapping the man Lin Yuan was questioning into a cocoon. Chapter 1165. A heart-wrenching cry echoed from the cocoon for close to 10 seconds. Lin Yuan allowed the source sand to absorb the red lotus soft gold and released the man that was wrapped in the red lotus soft gold. After being released by Lin Yuan, the man's face was covered in tears as though he had just been ravaged by something indescribable. Before Lin Yuan could ask again, the man trembled and said, We are from the Dry Cliff Bandits. We're from the Withered Cliff Bandits. Our goal is to steal all of the Deep Creek Caravan's resources. We want to kill all the Deep Refine Caravan's members and frame the Iron Hammer Federation. This is so that the other caravans in the Deep Refine Federation will be afraid to hold a gathering in the Iron Hammer Federation's territory. Miss Luoya is a noble daughter of a 2-star family and a Class 1 creation master. She is also the vice leader of our Dry Cliff Bandit King group. Boss, I'm begging you. I'll tell you everything I know. Don't kill me. Leave me here. I'll do anything you want. I can make a dinner plate for you. Lin Yuan grinned. Don't make a dinner plate. How can I eat if you make a dinner plate for me? Suppressing the disgust in his heart, Lin Yuan looked playfully at the other 4 Dry Cliff Bandit King group members who were waiting for his questions. He noticed that the 4 Dry Cliff Bandit King group members' faces were pale. It was obvious that he was frightened by the crying of the man he was talking to. Lin Yuan originally thought that he would need to use some tricks if he wanted to get some actual information. He didn't expect that as soon as he used his tricks, the other party would clean up. There was nothing else he wanted to know. Based on the information he had obtained, Lin Yuan immediately thought of a way to get close to the Deep Enlightenment Federation's caravans that were 95 kilometers away and gain their trust. Lin Yuan knew that the 5 people in front of him were cowards. He couldn't easily return between the Divine Wood Federation and the Radiance Federation. The 5 of them might not be spirit craftsmen, but they could speed up the underground palace's construction by doing some manual labor under Hu Quan. Without their cell phones, it meant that they had no way to communicate with the outside world. Therefore Lin Yuan didn't need to hide anything from them. After a round of threats and no sweet dates, the 5 of them were sent underground by Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan was not afraid that the 5 of them would not work if he did not give them some benefits. Hu Quan did not even need to do anything. In order to curry favor with him, Feng Shuang, Old He, and Hu Tian would fight to arrange things clearly for the 5 of them. After arranging the 5 free laborers, Lin Yuan looked at Lu Jia and said, "Brother Lu, I'll have to trouble you to accompany me to put on a show." Lin Yuan explained his plan to Lu Jia in detail. Upon hearing that, Lu Jia took out 2 sets of clothes from the diamond face storage box. "If we're going to put on a show, we'll have to go all the way. Only then will it look realistic." When Lu Jia handed him the clothes, Lin Yuan gave him a thumbs up. "Sure, Brother Lu. Professional." The clothes that Lu Jia gave Lin Yuan looked very luxurious but were very tacky in Lin Yuan's eyes. Under normal circumstances, spirit chi professionals with true wealth and taste would wear spirit chi clothes that were relatively simple in design. The preciousness was mostly reflected in the materials used or the details of the engravings. The spirit chi clothing in Lin Yuan's hand was embroidered with a few very obvious colored gems. These gems were not expensive and could be found in Class 1 and Class 2 underground dimensional rifts. This kind of item produced from the underground dimensional rift could be used in any continent. Thus, even if he met someone with ulterior motives, he wouldn't be suspected. Lin Yuan put on the clothes in a few moments and said, "That's right. Brother Lu, come and help me make a few more cuts on this shirt, so that I can look a little more pathetic." Upon hearing that, Lu Jia reached out and scratched his head. He was very resistant to making a move on Lin Yuan, even if Lin Yuan had taken the initiative to do so. In the end, Lu Jia summoned the insect queen and had it produce a normal flesh-mincing blade insect. He then ordered the flesh-mincing blade insect to gently make nearly 20 cuts of different sizes on Lin Yuan's clothes. The hurricane owlet moth raised a few more gusts of wind, messing up Lin Yuan's hair and clothes. After a series of actions, Lu Jia said with some hesitation, "Done. But Lin Yuan, I keep feeling that something is wrong. This shirt looks extravagant and old-fashioned. People with real foundations won't take a fancy to it, but people without foundations will especially pursue it. There's no problem with the choice of clothes. It looks pathetic after it's torn. When you wear it, your temperament will support this shirt, and the old-fashioned feeling of this shirt will disappear. You don't look like a young master of a small family clan who has been attacked and is fleeing." The more Lu Jia looked at Lin Yuan, the more he felt that Lin Yuan's temperament was top-notch. What Lu Jia was most worried about now was that Lin Yuan would wear this shirt with more than 20 cuts to find Luoya and let her know the location of the Deep Brahman Federation. What if Luoya could not resist the temptation and did Lin Yuan first regardless of anything? Although Lu Jia had never been to the Divine Wood Federation, he had read a lot of information about it. The Divine Wood Federation's openness was unimaginable to the Radiance Federation's unmarried girls. Even the ravenous old aunties in their 40s and 50s had to admit defeat. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan reached out and grabbed a handful of soil from the ground and wiped it twice on his face. Then he rubbed his muddy palms on his body. After Lin Yuan saw his appearance through the Source Sand's chain sword, he said with a bright smile, "Doesn't it look much better this time?" Lu Jia originally wanted to tell Lin Yuan, "Even if you smeared dirt on your body and face, the black soil would only make one's skin appear whiter, but it wouldn't lower one's temperament." Lu Jia was about to speak when he realized that Lin Yuan's temperament had suddenly changed. Not only did his aura weaken, but the expression on his face also looked so weak and helpless. There was also a trace of innocence and a sense of awkwardness. Lin Yuan's aura was in place, but the current Lin Yuan was many times more attractive than before. When Lu Jia saw Lin Yuan's appearance, he could not help but walk forward and grab a few more handfuls of soil, rubbing large pieces of soil on Lin Yuan's clothes and pants. After dirtying Lin Yuan's clothes, Lu Jia still did not stop. He then patted some muddy black soil on Lin Yuan's face and neck before stopping. Finally, Lu Jia let the insect queen self-destruct the newly hatched flesh-mincing blade insects, and the insect fluid splashed all over Lin Yuan. It stained Lin Yuan's body with the fishy smell of the insect's internal organs. Lu Jie thought to himself, Luoya, who always treats people like a plate, shouldn't attack Lin Yuan as soon as they meet. Lin Yuan let Lu Jie transform him. End of this chapter. Chapter 1166. Lin Yuan said after Lu Jie was done with the modification. Brother Lu, have the hurricane owlet moths keep an eye on the withered cliff bandits. The dry cliff bandits are getting tired of waiting for those 5 fellows to return. I'll make my move after the main force has advanced. Then wait for me near the Deep Revel Caravans Market. Since the withered cliff bandits are heading straight for the border, the Deep Revel Caravan must be absolutely confident. When the two sides start fighting and the Deep Vendor Federation's caravans are mostly dead and unable to resist, you can come and take care of the situation. Lu Jie said. According to your plan, I will deliberately let go of Luoya from the 2-star family of the Dry Cliff Bandits, and use the insect swarm to drive Roha towards the underground palace. While speaking, Lu Jie could not help but sigh inwardly at Lin Yuan's plan. Both he and Lin Yuan were powerful, so it would be easy for them to stir up trouble in this world. But since they had just arrived, only a reckless person would act rashly without understanding the situation. He currently needed to obtain spatial spiritual materials on the Agro Pattern Road. If they acted rashly based on their strength, it was very likely that they would become the common enemy of the Divine Wood Iron Hammer and the Deep Lush Federation. In this way, it would be very difficult for Sky City to develop in the Agoan continent. It was said that the 3 major federations didn't have any Class 5 creation masters, but this was just what the 3 major federations claimed. If the 3 major federations wanted to hide the information, even if they had Class 5 creation masters, outsiders would not be able to find out. Therefore, no matter what, he had to build a network of connections in the Ahiwan continent according to plan. Only with strength and connections would one be able to pursue the greatest development in the Awen continent. According to Lin Yuan's plan, he would be the savior of the Deep Brahman Federation's caravan 95 kilometers north. It would be easy to dig out information from this small caravan of the Deep Burn Federation. Moreover, he was likely to come into contact with larger caravans through this small caravan. At that time, his rewards would be far more than just being the savior of this small caravan. As for letting Luoya go without killing Luoya, he could also get a wave of information from Luoya. With intelligence from both sides, the situation within a 500-kilometer radius would be easily grasped. It would also be easier for him to formulate his next plan. While Lu Jie was monitoring the Dry Cliff Bandits through the hurricane owlet moths, he had plenty of free time. Lin Yuan felt that he might be good at acting, but if he appeared in front of the Dry Cliff Bandits in ragged clothes, he would definitely arouse suspicion. There were very few powerful fays in this forest, and it wouldn't be easy for him to end up in such a sorry state. This dimensional rift was the best reason. The existence of the dimensional rift also made the Dry Cliff Bandits wary, so they would choose to take a detour when passing through the underground palace. He took out the void-shattering stones that he had harvested in the Miao family's beast creation garden and accurately took out 5 caddies of void-shattering stones from the 15 caddies. Then he injected his spiritual power into the 5-kilogram void-shattering stone. The space-shattering stone, which had been infused with spiritual power, immediately lit up with a silver light, and the originally stable spatial energy inside it also became violent. The spatial energy fluctuations emitted by the space-shattering stone caused the space on the scene to become mottled. It was as if it would shatter at any moment. Lin Yuan quietly watched the process of the intact space slowly collapsing and finally cracking open the dimensional rift. Suddenly, a trace of wonderful enlightenment appeared in his heart. However, this enlightenment was fleeting, and Lin Yuan wasn't able to firmly grasp it. Lin Yuan couldn't help but feel a little regretful. Lin Yuan thought to himself, if I can grasp this trace of enlightenment, will I be able to comprehend a willpower rune suitable for fusing with a spatial type Fey? Lin Yuan had used the space-shattering stone to open the spatial rift on the ground, and it was currently daytime. Even if the Class 1 dimensional rift emitted a dark red glow and was accompanied by intense spatial fluctuations, it would still be difficult for Spirit Chi professionals to sense it from 10 kilometers away. It would also be difficult for Spirit Chi professionals to sense it from 10 kilometers away. Therefore, Lin Yuan wasn't afraid that the Dry Cliff Bandits and the Deep Enlightenment Federation's caravans would sense it. Of course, after completing this plan, this Class 1 dimensional rift would still need to be reinforced and shielded with spatial spiritual materials. However, Lin Yuan didn't need to worry about reinforcing and controlling the dimensional rift. He could just leave it to the Class 5 spirit craftsman Hu Quan. At that moment, dimensional life forms were already surging out of the dimensional rift. Lin Yuan saw that the dimensional rift that had just opened spat out 30 alien insects at once as though it was vomiting. Among these 30 alien insects, 12 of them didn't have a grade. 8 of them were normal and 9 of them were elite. There was only one alien insect that reached bronze, which was also Class 1. Subsequently, the dimensional rift continuously vomited out alien insects, but none of them reached Class 1. The alien insect dimensional rift could be said to be Lin Yuan's old friend. The first two dimensional rifts that Lin Yuan had come into contact with were alien insect dimensional rifts. Lin Yuan had opened this dimensional rift not only to find a reasonable reason for appearing in front of the Dry Cliff Bandits, but also to nurture silver brilliance. Among all the dimensional rifts, the one that was most beneficial for nurturing silver brilliance in the early stages was undoubtedly the alien insect dimensional rift. The appearance of a dimensional rift required a process to brew an alien beast tide. The alien insects that had just been spat out of the dimensional rift would not act rashly immediately after arriving in the main world from the dimensional world. Instead, they would wait for more of their kind to arrive before forming a group and moving together with the high-grade alien insects. It was the same situation that Lin Yuan had encountered in Millstone Town. But now Lin Yuan was close to the dimensional rift. Upon seeing Lin Yuan, these alien insects that should have been waiting for their companions, regardless of their strength, pounced at him. Lin Yuan waved his hand and summoned Silver Brilliance, who had been concentrating on absorbing the insect-patterned coral jade in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Silver Brilliance had been in the Spirit Lock spatial zone ever since she had transformed into a fairy source-type life form. She had never had the chance to be summoned to the outside world. Now that Lin Yuan had summoned her, Silver Brilliance immediately flapped the 3 pairs of wings on her back. She curiously sized up the surroundings. Originally, Silver Flower liked to stick to Lin Yuan, so every time he entered the Spirit Lock spatial zone, Silver Brilliance would always land on Lin Yuan's ears with chimey. After Red Thorn completed its transformation, Silver Brilliance felt its possessiveness toward Lin Yuan. In order to maintain the sisterhood between Red Thorn and Lin Yuan, Silver Brilliance would not continue to stay by his side when Red Thorn stayed by his side. Of course, this was also related to Red Thorn's bloodline subtly suppressing Silver Brilliance. Silver Brilliance's fairy bloodline was at the low grade of 3 wings and had not reached the mid-grade. However, Red Thorn's fairy bloodline had reached the peak of 3 wings. The bloodline caused Silver Brilliance to subconsciously respect Red Thorn. Chapter 1167. Now that he was summoned, Red Thorn was not by his side. Silver Flower flew to Lin Yuan's face and kissed the part where Lin Yuan's skin color could still be seen. She did not mind that Lin Yuan's face was dirted by the mud. Lin Yuan looked at Silver Flower's excited expression and said with a smile, "Silver Flower did not have the chance to nurture you previously. Previously, Silver Glory didn't have the chance to nurture you. Now that you have this Class 1 alien insect dimensional rift, you can nurture the bone lotus flowers as you wish. Use the bone lotuses to devour the alien insects that emerge from the Class 1 dimensional rift and rely on the alien insects' souls to increase your strength." Lin Yuan thought for a moment and said, "Silver Flower, try to increase your quality while increasing your strength. Yinhua, try to improve your quality as much as possible while you're improving your strength. Put your level aside for now. A Class 1 alien insect dimensional rift will at most produce Class 3 alien insects. If your bone lotuses can't deal with Class 3 alien insects, Big Brother Lu's Insect Queen will help you. Therefore, you don't have to rush to increase your rank. Increasing your quality to legend is more important." Lin Yuan summoned his first willpower rune, the Massacre Willpower Rune, and said to Silver Flower, "Silver Flower, I will keep this willpower rune for you. Silver Flower, I will keep this willpower rune for you. I'll use this willpower rune to let you evolve into a fantasy breed when you advance to legend by devouring souls." Silver Flower blushed and kissed Lin Yuan's face a few more times. Silver Flower's former self was the Carcinoma Fei, the sea burial lotus flower. Silver Flower had transformed into a fairy source-type life form because the demon's heart's soul had devoured the sea burial lotus flower's soul. However, the demon's heart's soul had perfectly inherited the sea burial lotus flower's chaotic consciousness. To the former tumor Fei, the sea burial lotus flower, Lin Yuan was a good person. Even though Lin Yuan had captured it, he had also provided it with the environment that it had always dreamed of. It allowed it to rapidly increase its strength. As the original soul of the demon's heart that had devoured the sea burial lotus flower's soul, Lin Yuan was its second parent. Therefore, Yin Hua was 100% reliant on Lin Yuan in her bones. Silver Flower had never thought that Lin Yuan would do anything for it. To Yin Hua, being able to follow Lin Yuan was already the happiest thing in the world. Every time a fairy source-type life form evolved to a higher level, its bloodline would be activated. When a fairy source-type life form advanced to a fantasy breed, it was also a chance for its bloodline to transform while increasing its strength. It was true that Yin Hua was very lenient toward Red Thorn, but Red Thorn's appearance had also stimulated Yin Hua's competitive spirit. Yin Hua had always been looking forward to advancing to a fantasy breed and obtaining the opportunity to transform her bloodline. He saw many alien insects being pushed away by the source sand when they were pouncing at him, causing them to escape into the forest. Lin Yuan urged Yin Hua. "Let's begin. If you don't, your rations will run away. If your rations run away, who knows how long you'll have to wait to raise your grade to legendary." Lin Yuan didn't care about the alien insects that escaped. If these insects could escape more than 5 kilometers away, they would be able to escape when he lured the Dry Cliff Bandit King group to the Deep Burn Federation's merchant guild. Upon seeing these scattered alien insects, there was no need to wait until they were within the range of the dimensional rift. The Withered Cliff Bandit King would believe his words. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's urging, Yin Hua immediately flapped her wings and flew to the top of the dimensional rift. Immediately after, the magnificent coral crown on Yin Hua's head, which was twice the size of her body, suddenly emitted a rainbow-colored radiance. A large number of rainbow-colored lotus flowers appeared under Yin Hua's feet. After these rainbow-colored lotus flowers appeared, they turned into rainbow-colored spots of light that sprinkled onto the ground. As a result, when these rainbow-colored spots of light touched the ground, bone lotus flowers instantly bloomed one after another. The smaller bone lotus flowers were the size of a bowl, while the larger ones were the size of a wash basin. Upon seeing the densely packed insect patterns on the bone lotus flowers, Lin Yuan knew that Yin Hua had already started to execute the coral insect pattern's rune nurturing mode. The rune nurturing mode could increase the bone lotus flowers' hardness and ductility. It would help the bone lotus flowers to feed on the alien insects that were spat out by the dimensional rift and consume their souls. Yin Hua's speed of nurturing the bone lotus flowers was not as fast as Red Thorn. However, Silver Eye/normal Yin Hua was able to nurture nearly 200 square meters of bone lotus flowers after exhausting all of her spiritual power. The 200 square meters of bone lotus flowers was just enough to barely surround the Class 1 alien insect dimensional rift. No matter which direction the Class 1 alien insect dimensional rift spat out the alien insects, they would immediately come into contact with the bone lotus flowers. The elite alien insects would still be able to struggle for a moment under the bone lotus flowers after being consumed by the bone lotus flowers. As for the normal alien insects that didn't have a grade, their souls would instantly be drained by the revolving bone lotus flowers and turned into insect juice. As the bone lotus flower sea of flowers consumed a large number of alien insects, it absorbed a large number of alien insect souls. Yin Hua's depleted spiritual power was also constantly being replenished. When Yin Hua's spiritual power was replenished, she slowly expanded the bone lotus flowers sea of flowers. After expanding the bone lotus flowers to the size of a football field, Yin Hua stopped expanding the bone lotus flower sea of flowers. This was because the digestion speed of the bone lotus flower sea of flowers was already barely able to keep up with the speed of the Class 1 alien insect dimensional rift spitting out alien insects. The bone lotus flower sea of flowers only consumed the alien insects' souls, and the alien insect corpses were piled up. In just a short moment there was a tall pile of insects. Seeing this, Yin Hua changed the pattern nurturing mode to burial pattern mode. Since there was no longer a need to expand the bone lotus flower sea of flowers, the pattern nurturing mode lost its original purpose. Under the burial pattern mode, The wandering insect patterns on the bone lotus flowers began to consume the bone lotus flowers. The insect patterns that consumed the bone lotus flowers transformed into bone worms. According to the different insect patterns on the coral jade that Yin Hua absorbed, the bone worms formed were also different. The bone worms mainly consumed the vitality of the living to increase their strength. The flesh of dimensional life forms contained a large amount of vitality. Under the burial pattern mode, these bone worms became the cleaners of the sea of flowers. They helped Yin Hua clean up the insect corpses that were left behind after the bone lotus flowers consumed their souls. The entire sea of flowers formed by the bone lotus flowers was divided into many parts. Every part of it was carrying out its own duties, coordinating with silver splendor in an orderly manner to maximize its feeding. At this moment Lin Yuan sharply noticed something. The sky above the bone lotus flowers sea of flowers was already covered with a thin layer of white powder. Lin Yuan immediately knew that this was Yin Hua's elite ability, bone dense mist. After the bone worms consumed the insect corpses, they would turn the undigested insect carapace into powder and spit it out. The bone dense mist was an excellent shielding ability and at the same time, it had the effect of expanding the attack range. 166 Reading Network. Chapter 1168. The bone powder could host coral patterns. The coral patterns in the bone powder could instantly transform into bone insects through the burial pattern mode and attack targets in the air. Therefore, the bone lotus sea's attack range was not limited to the land. As long as the bone powder mist enveloped the area, it would be within Silver Splendor's attack range. As for the exclusive skill Hermit Dead Servant, there was no rush. Dimensional life forms like alien insects had weak souls. Furthermore, the alien insects that descended from the Class 1 alien insect dimensional rift were weak. If he wanted to rely on such weak souls to nurture the first Hermit Undead Servant, he estimated that it would take at least a week. The exclusive skill allowed the Hermit Dead Servant to constantly grow stronger by devouring the dead souls that were killed by the Bone Lotus Sea. It was an important method and guarantee for Lin Yuan to create a forbidden land. Lin Yuan was looking forward to nurturing the Hermit Dead Servant in a week. Since the Hermit Dead Servant could not be nurtured in a short time, Lin Yuan decided not to pay attention to the Bone Lotus Sea that Silver Splendor had nurtured. At that moment, a giant alien insect's cry echoed. A giant beetle with black spikes all over its body squeezed out of the dimensional rift and landed in the sea of flowers formed by the Bone Lotus flowers. Lin Yuan's eyes lit up when he saw this black beetle covered in spikes. Lin Yuan did not even need to use true data to investigate this Class 3 alien insect and recognized its name. Spiky beetle. Among the 3 Class 3 alien insects that he had encountered in Millstone Town, there was a spiky beetle. However, the spiky beetle in Millstone Town was nearly 3.5 meters long and 3 meters wide. Now this spiky beetle was only 3 meters long and about 2.5 meters wide. It meant that this spiky beetle's strength was far inferior to the one that had appeared in Millstone Town. The dimensional rift that had appeared above Millstone Town was a pinnacle Class 1 dimensional rift. The dimensional rift that he had opened with the spatial shattering rock was only a low-class Class 1 dimensional rift. The alien insects that gushed out of the dimensional rift could not be compared. Lin Yuan was not in a hurry to kill the spiky beetle. Instead, he let it struggle and destroy the Bone Lotus Sea. He planned to use this spiky beetle to test the White Bone Lotus Sea's recovery ability. If Lin Yuan wanted to use the White Bone Lotus Sea as the main body to create a forbidden zone, he had to know how powerful the White Bone Lotus Sea's recovery ability was. If one's recovery ability was not strong enough, even if the White Bone Lotus Sea was very strong, it would not be able to withstand it. It was also very easy for people to use their lives to forcefully destroy it. There was no need for him to test the White Bone Lotus Sea's strength now. This was because the White Bone Lotus Sea's strength could not be effectively tested. On the one hand, it was because as the Bone Lotus flower absorbed the souls of more dimensional creatures, Silver Essence's grade and quality would continue to rise. As a result, Huahai's overall strength would naturally increase. On the other hand, the bone worm formed from the insect patterns would constantly increase its strength as it devoured life force. If it had enough life force, it was not impossible for the bone worm's strength to surpass the bone lotus. These tiny bone worms, which were hard to see with the naked eye, had unlimited potential. The level 3 spiky beetle rampaged through the sea of flowers, smashing a large number of white bone lotuses into smithereens. Now, Silver Essence's strength was only at bronze I/normal, and she had not had time to devour many alien insects. Even if Silver Essence was a six-winged fairy's source-type life form with a powerful bloodline, under the suppression of 2 major grades, it was truly difficult for Silver Flower to deal with the Class 3 spiky beetle effectively. Seeing that Lin Yuan had no intention of helping her, Silver Essence blinked at Lin Yuan, feeling wronged. Seeing Silver Essence's wronged eyes, Lin Yuan comforted her. "Be good, Silver Essence. Try to control the situation in the White Bone Lotus Sea first. When you can't control the situation, I'll let the Source Sand get rid of this spiky beetle. By then you can absorb the spiky beetle's soul." Hearing Lin Yuan's words, Silver Essence immediately understood what he meant. She knew that Lin Yuan wanted to test her strength. Moreover, from Lin Yuan's words, Silver Essence could tell that Lin Yuan was not optimistic that she could defeat this ugly guy in front of her. Lin Yuan's contempt immediately stimulated Silver Essence's desire to win. Among all the Class 3 alien insects, the spiky beetle was an alien insect that excelled in defense. Its attack method completely relied on the explosive power of the physical body, using the spiky beetle armor to charge at the target. Normally, Silver Essence would not dare to go head-on with this spiky beetle. However, the Dimensional Rift's entrance was constantly spewing out a large number of alien insects. The death of these alien insects was providing spiritual power for her abundant sea of flowers to recover. Therefore, Silver Essence intended to give it a try with all her might. Suddenly, Silver Essence's silver eyes lit up as though she had thought of a good way to win. Silver Essence circulated her spiritual power, and the huge crystal-like coral crown on her head lit up with a colorful luster again. Numerous colorful lotuses also grew wildly under Silver Essence's feet. Yinhua flew down from the sky and landed in the sea of white bone lotuses with the 7 colored lotuses under her feet. Immediately after, all the white bone lotus sea in the stadium became restless. At this time, the spiky beetle had already destroyed at least 100 square meters of the white bone lotus flower sea after several collisions and crushing it. Just as the spiky beetle was prepared to continue its collisions and wantonly destroy more white bone lotus sea, 7 colorful lotuses grew under the spiky beetle's feet. The stems of these 7 colorful lotuses kept extending and tightly grabbed the black spikes on the spiky beetle's carapace like hands. For a moment, the 7 colorful lotuses and the spiky beetle were in a stalemate, causing the spiky beetle to stop its wanton destruction. This scene left Lin Yuan dumbfounded. He knew that these colorful lotuses weren't Silver Essence's ability. When Silver Essence had transformed into a fairy and condensed the crystal-like coral crown on her head, these colorful lotuses had automatically appeared under her feet. It should be considered Silver Essence's innate ability. Silver Essence restricted the spiky beetle's movement, which meant that Silver Essence's bronze strength could contend with a Class 3 alien insect that was comparable to a gold fae. Lin Yuan couldn't help but sigh at the power of the 6-winged fairy's bloodline. Red Thorn's bloodline was even higher than Silver Essence's, and it was unknown how strong Red Thorn would be after entering combat mode. However, Silver Essence's grade was truly too low, and there were too many spiky beetles. Even if she could temporarily be in a stalemate, Silver Essence would still fall into a disadvantageous situation after a long time. Initially, the spiky beetle was restricted in place by the 7 colorful lotuses. But now, the spiky beetle was able to pull the 7 colorful lotuses and move a small distance. It seemed like the stalemate that Silver Essence had painstakingly created was about to be broken by the spiky beetle. End of this chapter. That you're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.